Chapter 90. It's over, this youth offended the Duanmu clan's Mississippi. He probably won't be able to live. Offending the Duanmu clan might not be a big deal, but the eldest son of the Jiang clan has to be careful. He caused Duan Muking to be humiliated in the Jiang clan's territory. Jiang Muheng will definitely not let him off. This youth is definitely a foreigner. He actually offended the top noble clan of Sishui Prefecture and the top noble clan of Whitewater City at the same time. Furthermore, he only has the cultivation of a superior grade martial disciple. He definitely won't live past tomorrow night. The cultivators on the second floor had witnessed the earlier incident. After the group of people left, they looked at Xiao Chen and shook their heads while sighing. Xiao Chen did not mind. He smiled faintly and continued to carve the wooden sculpture in his hands. When he finished the last step, he blew on the wood shavings in satisfaction. Bai, who was at the side, did not know what had happened. He raised his head and looked around. When he saw nothing interesting, he continued to eat his fish porridge happily. Bang! Bang! On the second floor, a fatso dressed in jewels walked over to Xiao Chen. His plump body made loud noises as he walked on the wooden floor. It made people worry if he would create a hole in the floor. He walked over with a smile. The eyes on his plump face were now curved slits. He was supposed to be smiling, but his face looked wretched no matter how one looked at it. "Friend, can we sit down and have a drink?" After he spoke, he did not wait for Xiao Chen to agree. He sat down and smiled. "Friend, you are really a straightforward person. You agreed so quickly." His fingers were filled with all sorts of rings. There were jadeite, white jade, gold, everything that one could think of. He held a folding fan made of gold in his right hand, which matched his jeweled clothes. He was dressed up like a nouveau riche. It was as tacky as one could imagine. It was extremely tacky. Xiao Chen picked up his wine cup and took a sip. He did not mind that Fatso had come uninvited. He smiled and said, "Are you here to buy this spirit fox as well?" That Fatso opened his golden folding fan and waved it elegantly. It was a pity that his appearance was as strange as one could imagine. If Feng Feishue, who was holding the folding fan, saw this Fatso, would she kill him with a slap? Thinking of this, Xiao Chen could not help but smile. Fatso shook it violently a few times, as though he had sensed something. He then slowly answered Xiao Chen's question, "I am not that stupid." Although that girl from the Duanmu clan could tell the bloodline of this spirit beast, she could not tell that this spirit beast already had a blood contract. As long as you don't die, even if this spirit fox is bought by someone, it will come back on its own. Whoever buys it is a fool. Xiao Chen was startled. This Fatso's eyesight was not ordinary. He could not help but ask seriously, "I have not asked for your great name." When Fatso saw that his words had shocked Xiao Chen, he smiled complacently. The fats on his face jiggled. Xiao Chen was alarmed when he saw this. He was afraid that the fats would fall off. "Haha, my name is Jean de Bayo. How is it? Isn't this name domineering? My father named me Jean de or something. I thought it was tacky, so I added the word bao." Xiao Chen sweated profusely in his heart. Jean de, Kim Tae-ho, they are indeed father and son. He forced a smile and said, "Haha, brother Jean, this name is indeed domineering." Kim Tae-ho was very satisfied with Xiao Chen's performance. He smiled and said, "Brother, stop wasting time. You should tell me your name as well. The moment I saw you, I felt that we were fated." Xiao Chen. Kim Tae-ho rubbed his chin and muttered in a soft voice, "Xiao Chen, this name sounds familiar. Never mind, let's not think about it. It's giving me a headache. Brother Xiao, to be honest, I am very interested in the wooden sculpture in your hands. I wonder if you can let me play with it." After Xiao Chen spoke, he casually waved his right hand and the wooden sculpture on the table immediately flew into his hand. Xiao Chen was startled again. He carefully recalled Kim Tae-ho's earlier actions. If I know what he is thinking, I have some confidence in stopping him and preventing him from obtaining the wooden sculpture. Xiao Qin continuously calculated in his heart. However, after countless calculations, the result was always 0. This fatso's speed did not seem fast, but it gave off a very natural feeling. It looked very casual, as if a friend had said hello to you and then taken away your things in a very normal manner. However, this was all a facade and a cover-up. If he did not want you to know, you might not even be able to guess that it was him who took the item. Kim Tae-ho was only an inferior grade martial master. However, at this moment, Xiao Qin was on his guard. He listed Kim Tae-ho as an extremely horrifying person in his heart. Kim Tae-ho continuously rubbed the wooden sculpture in his hand. There was a smile in his eyes. It was as disgusting as one could imagine, like a boar in heat. Aside from this, Xiao Qin could not find any other words to describe it. Xiao Qin could not bear to watch any longer. He snatched the wooden sculpture away. He was afraid that if this fatso continued to rub it, the wooden sculpture might really be ground flat. Damn! Xiao Qin held it in his hand and took a look. Yu Ying's chest area had already been ground flat, her bra could no longer be seen. Xiao Qin was speechless. How disgusting must he be to do this? Kim Tae-ho realized his loss of composure, but there was no shame on his face. He laughed before looking at Xiao Qin in a wretched manner. I did not expect brother Xiao to be a kindred spirit. You actually managed to carve the goddess in my heart so realistically, even more realistic than a real person. Are you selling this wooden sculpture? I'm hungry, this one doesn't seem to be working anymore. Carve another one for me. I will use an earth-ranked spirit weapon to exchange for it. I, Kim Tae-ho, have always been a man of my words. I will not cheat anyone when I do business. I will not be like a little girl who treats you like a fool. If I carve another one, you will grind it until not even dregs remain, Xiao Qin thought to himself. He looked at the wooden carving with its chest ground flat. When he thought of Fatty Jin's sweat on it, Xiao Qin suddenly felt disgusted. He threw the wooden sculpture in his hand out of the window. After that, he shot out a strand of purple flame, shattering the wooden sculpture in the air into countless pieces. After fiercely wiping his hands, Xiao Qin felt that the disgusting feeling was slightly better. My goddess! Fatso cried out in surprise. He rushed out of the window and looked at the wooden shards in the air. His face revealed an incomparably sorrowful and heartbroken expression. Xiao Qin could not be bothered with him. He left behind a banknote and prepared to leave this place. Brother Xiao, don't go. Don't be in such a rush to leave. Fatso was just outside the window. In the blink of an eye, he was in front of Xiao Qin. He had a smile on his face as he held on to Xiao Qin tightly. Xiao Qin wanted to shake off Kim Tae-ho's hand, but he discovered that this fellow was extraordinarily heavy. Without using his essence, he could not budge Fatso at all. Helpless, Xiao Qin could only stop and say, don't think that I'll carve that wooden sculpture for you. I will not agree to it. Kim Tae-ho said with a face full of smiles, it's fine, it's fine. Even if business fails, there is still benevolence. I saw that you were fated, so I would like to treat you to a drink. Let's go to the 4th floor. My treat. Fatso said boldly as he patted his chest. Xiao Qin could not do anything after being pestered. He said, we will only drink and not talk. We will leave after we finish drinking. Kim Tae-ho giggled and let go. He said, sure, sure. Come, let's go to the 4th floor. It's more peaceful there. Xiao Qin followed him slowly up the stairs. What made Xiao Qin surprised was that when the Liushang Pavilion cultivators guarding the 3rd floor saw Fatso, they all had respectful expressions on their faces. Just like that, they walked to the 4th floor without any obstructions. The 4th floor of Liushang Pavilion was different from what Xiao Qin had imagined. The decorations were very simple, there were no gorgeous decorations. The simple decorations did not give one a dull and monotonous feeling. Instead, it made one feel refreshed and at ease. Ding dong. Ding dong. Behind a screen on the fourth floor came the melodious sound of a zither. It was like an oriole leaving the valley or a swallow returning to its nest. At one moment, it was noisy like heavy rain, at the next, it was like whispering. At first, it seemed like it was spouting thunder and wind, but at the same time, it seemed like it was moaning. The sound of the zither was so beautiful that even Xiao Chen, who did not understand music, felt intoxicated. The melodious sound of the zither, coupled with the elegant decorations of the fourth floor, caused one to unknowingly become intoxicated. Xiao Chen praised, "The decorations of the fourth floor are very ingenious and extremely elegant. They must have been arranged by an expert." When Kim Tae-ho heard this, he felt very pleased. He confidently flung open the folding fan made of gold and waved it a few times. He smiled and said, "I am untalented, but Brother Xiao praised me. The decorations of the fourth floor were done by me. All the branches of Liushang Pavilion in the nation have such decorations." Xiao Chen was speechless. He did not dare to associate the atmosphere of the fourth floor with Fatso. After a long time, he said, "Pretend I never said anything." Under Kim Tae-ho's guidance, the two of them found a table near the railings. The view of this place was very wide, they could clearly see the people coming and going on the streets. "Waiter, bring 2 jugs of good wine, a few dishes to go with the wine, and a bowl of fish porridge," Kim Tae-ho immediately called out loudly after he sat down. Liushang Pavilion's efficiency in serving food was very high. In a short while, the waiter had brought all the dishes and wine over. A bowl of fragrant fish porridge was placed in front of Kim Tae-ho. When Bai smelled the fragrance, he immediately leaped onto the table and walked towards the fish porridge. Kim Tae-ho felt that it was interesting and stretched out his hand to rub Bai's head. With a gentle flash, Bai avoided Kim Tae-ho's fat hand. He used his claws to slowly push the fish porridge towards Xiao Chen. In the end, he even rolled his eyes at Kim Tae-ho. After being looked down upon by Bai, Kim Tae-ho smiled awkwardly. He took a sip of wine and said to Xiao Chen, "Brother Xiao Chen, you really have a pair of wonderful hands. I have a plan to get rich. As long as brother is willing to cooperate, you will be able to get rich immediately." Xiao Chen nodded his head with some interest. "I'd like to hear the details." Kim Fatso chuckled and moved closer to Xiao Chen's ear in a wretched manner. He whispered his plan to him. After Xiao Chen heard it, he could not help but smile bitterly. "I discovered that not only are you fat, your guts are also extraordinarily fat." Kim Fatso chuckled, "As long as you don't say anything, and I don't say anything, no one will know it was done by the two of us." Just as Xiao Chen was about to reject, a manservant ran over and said to Xiao Chen, "Dear guest, the guests at that table want you to go over." Looking in the direction of his finger, Xiao Chen saw that the group of people the manservant was talking about was Jiang Muheng, Duan Muking, and the others. Chapter 91. You want me to go over just because you say so? Xiao Chen smiled coldly in his heart. What do you take me for? Xiao Chen originally did not want to bother with him. However, when he saw the manservant not leaving, he asked, "Who told you to pass the message?" The manservant replied honestly, "The first young master of the Jiang clan. Young master Jiang Muheng said that he wants you to go over and drink some wine. He said that he wants to introduce you to his friend." Xiao Chen picked up his wine cup and drained it in one gulp. He said indifferently, "Tell him to come over himself. To be honest, I do not know him." The manservant revealed a difficult expression, not knowing what to do. If he passed the message like that, the people opposite him would not give him a good attitude. They were not people that could be offended. Jean Fatso smiled, "Since when did the people of Liushang Pavilion lose their backbone? Pass the message according to this brother's words. Do not change the words." Since Jean Fatso had spoken, the manservant could only do as he was told helplessly. This Fatso does not have any good intentions. He is helping me on the surface, but he is secretly trying to incite conflict between me and the other party. Xiao Chen thought to himself. However, he did not mind. Since Jiang Muheng did not respect him, there was no need for him to look down on him. Jean Fatso picked up his wine cup and clinked it with Xiao Chen's. Brother Xiao, you are really bold. Do you know what kind of people they are? Xiao Chen said indifferently, I would like to hear the details. Jean Fatso picked up his wine cup and pointed to one of them, that is Duanmuking. His clan is the #1 noble clan in Sisui Prefecture, one of the 3 great powers in Dongming Province. He has an innate bloodline, and his martial spirit is the ice crystal phoenix. It has been passed down for thousands of years. The man sitting on his right is called Hua Yunfei. The Hua noble clan is also one of the 3 great powers in Dongming Province. The martial spirit of his clan is a surging holy river. However, his martial spirit has mutated, and the holy river has turned into a horrifying river of blood. The last one is even more terrifying. He is the last disciple of the Misty Sword Sect's sect master, Chu Chaoyun. There is no need for me to introduce the Misty Sword Sect. It is an existence comparable to a holy land. However, the most troublesome thing is not these people, but that brat called Jiang Muheng. In this Whitewater City, the Bai clan is the most powerful. As the saying goes, it is easier to deal with the king of hell than the little ghosts. You embarrassed him in front of this group of people. In the end, Kim Tae-ho chuckled twice. His meaning was self-evident. Xiao Chen understood the consequences of offending a villain. However, he had the ability to protect himself, so he was not afraid. However, he was a little confused as to why the younger generation of the 3 great powers of Dongming Province had all come to this Whitewater City. Xiao Chen asked, you should know what this group of people is here for, right? Jean Fatso fanned himself a few times with a look of understanding. He smiled and said, there is no point in telling you. Aside from Jiang Muheng, this group of people have all surpassed the martial master realm. They are all martial grand masters. With your cultivation realm, it is best if you do not know. Jean Fatso only said half of what he wanted to say. It was clear he wanted to entice Xiao Chen to continue asking. After that, he pretended to be in a difficult position and had no choice but to tell Xiao Chen. He wanted Xiao Chen to owe him a favor. Although Xiao Chen was curious, it was not to the point where he needed to know. Furthermore, this Fatso was obviously not an ordinary person. Thinking of the plan he mentioned, Xiao Chen felt that it was better not to have any dealings with this person. Who knows, he might be killed by him without even knowing it. Seeing that Bai no longer wanted to move after eating, Xiao Chen smiled faintly in his heart and prepared to take his leave. Just as Xiao Chen was about to speak, Jiang Muheng led 2 servants over with a gloomy expression, this brother, do you dare to report your name? Xiao Chen took a glance behind him and discovered that the people at the opposite table had already finished eating. Duanmuking and the other 2 had already left. After thinking for a while, he guessed Jiang Muheng's motive. Since the main character had already left, there was no need for Jiang Muheng to continue maintaining his demeanor. Seeing that Xiao Chen did not immediately answer Jiang Muheng's question, a cultivator behind him pointed at Xiao Chen and said, are you very arrogant? Our young master wants you to go over for a drink, yet you do not give him face. Who do you think you are? You don't even care about the Whitewater City's Jiang clan. Xiao Chen stood up and clenched his right hand into a fist. The purple light was withdrawn and he did not waste any time speaking nonsense or using any fancy moves. He simply punched the servant's chest. There was a loud boom, and the purple light exploded out. The huge force sent the servant flying. His hands kept grabbing wildly in the air, but he could not grab anything. Bang! The servant landed on a wooden table and the wooden table immediately broke into 2. However, the huge force did not weaken at all. That servant continued to roll on the ground. Finally, he crashed into the wall and vomited a mouthful of blood before fainting. Xiao Chen wiped his hands and looked at the dumbfounded Jiang Muheng. He smiled faintly and said, sorry, when a dog barks, I only use my fists and not my mouth. Now, I will answer your question. I am called Xiao Chen, Grasshead, Morning. Goodbye. After Xiao Chen spoke, he leaped over the railing of the 4th floor and jumped down. When the spirit fox at the table saw Xiao Chen leave, it quickly followed suit. When Xiao Chen saw Bai jump down as well, he was startled. His body paused in midair before he turned around and hugged the spirit fox. He scolded, "I jumped, and you jumped as well. Are you not afraid of falling to your death?" Xiao Chen, who was hugging the spirit fox, took a deep breath and leaped into the air. He landed on the roof of a house by the side of the street. In a single leap, he covered a distance of 100 meters. After that, he leaped a few more times and disappeared from everyone's sight. "Brother Xiao, you still have not told me if you agreed to my plan," Jean Fatso shouted at the distant Xiao Chen as he leaned on the railing. Jiang Muheng punched the table where Xiao Chen was drinking wine earlier. The wooden table immediately shattered into 4 pieces. The bowls and plates on the table fell to the ground, clanging non-stop. When the customers on the 4th floor saw the situation, they no longer had any desire to continue eating. They threw down a stack of silver notes and paid their bills before leaving. Jiang Muheng stood in his original spot with an ashen expression. As he watched Xiao Chen leave, his eyes were filled with rage. He had never seen such an arrogant person in Whitewater City before. He actually dared to injure his men in front of him. Then, he calmly reported his name and left. The people on the 4th floor were all reputable people in Whitewater City. After tomorrow, the entire Whitewater City would probably laugh at him. "First, young master, you have to take revenge for me." The servant in the corner woke up in a daze. He was not sure of the current situation. He trembled as he walked to Jiang Muheng's side. Bang! Jiang Muheng was currently in a fit of rage. He raised his leg and kicked the servant flying again. He scolded him viciously, "Trash! You have completely thrown away the face of this young master." Jiang Muheng turned around and was about to leave. He wanted to use the spies in his family to quickly find out where Xiao Chen lived. He could not wait to tear Xiao Chen's corpse into 10,000 pieces. "Young Master Jiang, wait a moment. It seems like you have not paid your bill yet." Jean Fatso blocked Jiang Muheng with a smile. Jiang Muheng could not be bothered with him. He took out a stack of silver notes and threw them on the ground. Jean Fatso rolled his eyes and smiled. "Young Master Jean, this amount doesn't seem right. Look, you broke 2 of my tables and even chased away all the customers on the 4th floor. 3,000 taels of silver is not enough." Jiang Muheng looked at Kim Tae-ho with disdain. He took out a few more gold notes and threw them on the ground. After that, he stomped on them and scolded, "That's enough, damn Fatso." Kim Tae-ho looked at the gold notes on the ground and a smile blossomed on his face. He squinted his eyes and said, "That's enough, that's enough. Young Master Jiang is indeed young Master Jiang. This is not an ordinary kind of spending. Take care, I won't send you off. Drink to your heart's content next time. Look at this mouth of mine. When I'm happy, I start to tremble. Don't be angry. I meant to welcome young Master Jiang back for a meal next time." Kim Tae-ho did not mind Jiang Muheng's mockery. He squatted down and smiled as he picked up the silver notes on the ground. Every time he picked up a note, the expression on his face became more intoxicated. "Young master, let me pick them up. This is such an embarrassing thing. It is not befitting of your status," a manservant from Liushang Pavilion said as he could not stand it anymore. Kim Tae-ho pushed the manservant away and said, "Go to the side. Can't you see this lord is having a good time picking them up? Not everyone is like this Lord Jean, who can afford to lose 10,000 taels of silver for 2 tables. Ha! It was unknown when the zither music on the 4th floor had stopped. A girl in pink walked out from behind the screen, carrying a zither. She did not put on any makeup. Her hair was tied up in a bun and fixed with a hairpin. Her face was as white as snow and looked very delicate. She looked very pure. However, as she walked over leisurely, she naturally revealed a flirtatious expression. She was very charming and alluring, looking very delicate and alluring. When Jean Fatso saw this girl, he immediately stopped picking up the money and rushed over. If Xiao Chen were here, he would definitely sigh like a pig in heat. Miss Xiao Xiao, I did not expect you to be here as well. De Bao missed you so much. Jean Fatso's fat body was moving very quickly. He spread his arms wide and rushed towards the girl in front of him. Even Xiao Chen would feel ashamed if he saw this speed. Dang! The 7-string zither in Xiao Xiao's arms moved forward gently and pressed against Fatso's chin. Jean Fatso immediately covered his mouth in pain and squatted on the ground. Xiao Xiao hugged the zither and looked at Fatso on the ground. She smiled coldly and said, Jean Fatso, you really can't change your ways. You always do this. Jean Fatso stood up with a smile. Unfortunately, his chin was already swollen. When he smiled, he looked very wretched. Now, when he smiled again, the word wretched was used to the extreme. Fortunately, you are this fat lord. My teeth are hard. Otherwise, every time you poke me like this fat lord's teeth would have fallen out long ago. After Jean Fatso stood up, he smiled without blushing. As he spoke, he unknowingly walked to Xiao Xiao's side. His fat hand was about to place on her shoulder. Xiao Xiao was looking in the direction Xiao Chen had left in. She did not seem to notice Fatso's actions. Fatty's heartbeat suddenly sped up several times. Seeing another goddess in his heart standing in front of him and finally being able to touch her, the fat on his face couldn't help but tremble a few times. Who? Xiao Xiao suddenly turned around. The seemingly ordinary zither in her arms carried a strong wind as it smashed towards Fatso's face. Fatso was startled. He quickly lowered his head and dodged. Seeing Xiao Xiao glaring at him angrily, Fatso straightened his body and smiled. He said, this is purely involuntary. Every time I see Miss Xiao Xiao, I feel an impulse. This is a normal physiological reaction of a man. Miss Xiao Xiao, please don't mind. Impulse my ass. How can there be someone as shameless as you? Xiao Xiao cursed Fatso in her heart 10,000 times. However, she knew how thick-skinned Fatso was. The more she scolded him, the more cocky he would become. The best way was to ignore him. Xiao Xiao found a clean table and sat down. She said, damn you, Fatso. What is your relationship with that youth? When Fatso heard this, he was stunned. He said very seriously, could it be that I, your brother Jean, am not enough to satisfy you? Xiao Xiao, your appetite is too big. Fuck. This time, Xiao Xiao could not bear it any longer. She slapped the zither and it flew into the air, creating a shockwave as it flew towards Fatso. Chapter 92. Fatso knew the origins of this zither, so he did not dare to clash head-on with it. He nimbly dodged to the side, displaying a speed that did not match his figure. Who? The zither's momentum did not stop. With a loud boom, it pierced a hole the size of a bowl in the wooden wall of Liushang Pavilion. The wood of Liushang Pavilion's walls was made of 100-year-old peak-quality sandalwood. A single piece of wood was worth thousands of gold. Fatso looked at the huge hole and felt his heart bleeding. He ran to the front of the hole and gestured with his hands, trying to calculate how much money he had lost. Damn! I have lost half of the banknotes I just picked up, Fatso cried out in pain after he gestured. Boom! The zither that had already flown out flew back with a schwa sound. This time, the force behind it was even greater. Another hole appeared in the wooden wall. Fatso felt an incomparable pain in his heart as he cried out involuntarily, it's over. I have lost another half. I have not earned a single cent today. The zither returned to Su Xiaoxiao's hands. She sat on the long bench with her eyes closed, revealing an intoxicated expression. Her hands gently caressed the zither. Ding! She suddenly opened her eyes and quickly plucked the strings of the zither with both hands. A passionate tune of a powerful army fighting on the battlefield suddenly sounded. The pitch gradually rose, and in an instant, it made people feel as if their blood was boiling on the battlefield. Tong! 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 Sound waves spread out in all directions along with the sound of the zither. Fatso thought to himself, it's over. This granddaddy's mouth has caused trouble again. Just as he thought to himself, all the antique porcelain decorations on the fourth floor started to shatter. None of them could avoid it. Finally, the sound of the zither grew louder and the killing intent became heavier. Aside from Su Xiaoxiao's table, everything else on the fourth floor flew into the air. Bang! Su Xiaoxiao ended the song heavily, and all the wooden tables and chairs in the air shattered. Countless wooden shavings danced in the air, and only after a long time did they slowly fall to the ground. Fatso's face, which had always been full of smiles, was now devoid of any color. His face was deathly pale, as if he could fall down at any time. It was extremely funny. A manservant at the side quickly supported him and whispered, "Young master, don't be too distressed." The shopkeeper knew that Miss Su Xiaoxiao was coming and guessed that you would make her angry, so he changed all the antiques to fake ones. Fatso's eyes moved, and he said, "Really, this guy knows me too well." "It's true." When Jean Fatso heard this, he immediately became spirited. The smile on his face was restored, but then he said bitterly, "The others are fake, but these two holes, no matter what, can't be fake. It's still a loss. Damned Fatso, get over here." After doing all this, Su Xiaoxiao felt better. She put away the zither and cursed. Jean Fatso no longer had any temper. He quickly jogged over and said with a smile, "Miss Xiaoxiao, what instructions do you have for me? This fat brother promises to satisfy you." Su Xiaoxiao frowned slightly and glared at him. "What is your relationship with that youth from earlier?" Fatso no longer dared to talk back. He said honestly, "I just met him today. I want to do business with him. I only know that he is called Xiao Chen. I am not sure about anything else." Xiao Chen. When Su Xiaoxiao heard this name, she thought of a possibility. A smile immediately appeared on her face. This casual smile was like a flower blooming, it was very beautiful. Fatso was stunned when he saw this. When Su Xiaoxiao saw Fatso's silly expression, she could not help but feel disdain in her heart. She asked again, "How much do you know about the ancient ruins that the Bai clan mentioned?" Uncle Jean recovered his wits and said, "I know a little. The Bai clan obtained a treasure map of the ancient ruins. However, they do not have the strength to enter. So, they invited the three major powers of Dongming province to explore the ancient ruins together. However, I don't know who in the Bai clan leaked the news. Now, this news has been made known to everyone. The big forces in Shihe and Nanling have all sent people here. Even the prince's mansion has sent people here." Su Xiaoxiao was astonished in her heart. The attraction of the ancient ruins left behind by the ancient humans was too great. It looked like it would not be easy to get involved in this mess. Whitewater City, Western District, within an independent courtyard, there was a wooden staff in the courtyard. Xiao Chen held the lunar shadow saber and focused on the wooden staff in front of him. His aura was at its peak. Chi! Drawing the saber. Xiao Chen's eyes suddenly narrowed. He drew the lunar shadow saber and hacked at the wooden staff. The wooden staff, which was as thick as an arm, was shaved off. Shua! 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 Xiao Chen quickly hacked 3 more times. When the 4th strike landed, the wooden staff shook a few times before falling to the ground. After just 4 simple strikes, Xiao Chen's forehead was covered in sweat. Wiping his sweat, Xiao Chen muttered, "It's still not working. It has already been half a month and there is no progress." Xiao Chen had bought this independent courtyard after he arrived in Whitewater City. After he settled down, he went to Whitewater City. After he settled down, he immediately started to organize all the martial techniques and cultivation techniques he had learned since he came to this world. In the end, he discovered that the things he knew were too complicated. He decided to refine his martial techniques. He was not in a rush to return to the realm of superior grade martial disciple. He might as well use this opportunity to refine his foundations. The martial skills derived from the Battle Sage Origins changing character formula were temporarily put aside by him. The true essence of the Battle Sage Origins changing character formula. Until now, he had not truly understood it. He could only imitate the surface of it and was unable to make it a part of his body. After using it for a long time, he discovered that with his current realm, the disadvantages were greater than the advantages. In the long run, he would completely lose himself and be lost in these external martial techniques. Thus, he focused on researching the Rushing Thunder Saber technique and the Blue Dragon Cloud Soaring art. The Blue Dragon Cloud Soaring art had always been practiced in a secluded place in Savage Forest. The Rushing Thunder Saber technique did not have a high requirement for a place to practice it. Thus, whenever he came back to rest, he would practice it in the courtyard. The Rushing Thunder Saber technique focused on completing it in one breath. Condensing one's aura to the extreme before using the Rushing Thunder Chop to release all the accumulated energy from the previous moves in an explosive manner. This was a very ferocious martial technique. If he could completely execute the Rushing Thunder Triple Chain Chop, he would be able to bring out this explosive power to the extreme. It would increase by many times and in the end, it could even surpass a regular Earth-ranked martial technique. However, he discovered that this saber technique had a fatal flaw. If the first move, drawing the saber, was unable to force the enemy back, then there was no need to execute all the moves after that. If one's aura was exhausted, how could one execute a move? Xiaoqian thought back to the ancient times of China where some bladesmen practiced their saber techniques. He felt that it made sense, so he brought it to this world and started to practice it. This upright stick looked as thick as an arm, but it was actually very light. It was a special kind of wood in the Tianwu continent. As long as one had the strength of a feather, they would be able to push it down. What Xiaoqian needed to do was to quickly draw his saber in an extremely short amount of time. In the situation where he had shaved off a part of the stick still did not fall. This seemingly simple strike actually exhausted a large amount of mental energy. In the month that he had been in Whitewater City, Xiaoqian had spent most of it practicing the first move of the Rushing Thunder Saber technique, drawing the saber. Every day, he would swing his saber no less than 1,000 times. At first, when he touched the stick, it would fall. Slowly, he would be able to send out one saber strike. Now, he could send out 4 saber strikes in a row. After that, he remained stagnant. Shaking his head, Xiaoqian straightened the stick again and continued to practice the first move of the Rushing Thunder Saber technique. Unknowingly, the sun had already set in the west. Streaks of red light dyed the sky a fiery red. The setting sun dyed the entire sky red. Xiaoqian continued to repeat the same actions without stopping. He did not know fatigue, nor did he know how much time had passed. Only when the sky turned completely dark did Xiaoqian stop what he was doing. His clothes were completely drenched in sweat, and he felt his arms aching. Xiaoqian did not immediately rest. He sat cross-legged on the ground and entered a state of cultivation. When one's body reached its limit, cultivating it again would result in unexpected results. After an hour, Xiaoqian had circulated the Purple Thunder Divine incantation in his body a few times. Suddenly, he opened his eyes. All the sweat on his body had already evaporated. His blood was boiling, and the aching pain in his arms had completely disappeared. Who? Xiaoqian got up and took a deep breath. He stretched his arms, and all the bones in his body gave off crackling sounds. A comfortable feeling entered Xiaoqian's mind. Who? Wen Bai, who had been standing on the stone table, saw that Xiaoqian had finished cultivating. It quickly jumped down and ran into his embrace. Its eyes, which were filled with spirituality, gave off a faint glow in the night. Xiaoqian smiled faintly and picked it up. After playing with it for a while, he stored it in the spirit blood jade. Just as Xiaoqian was preparing to return to his room to sleep, a faint killing intent came from a distance. Xiaoqian frowned and extended his spiritual sense in the direction of the source of the killing intent. In the middle of the night, there was a figure holding a broad saber in his hand. He was leaping around the roofs, heading towards Xiao Chen's courtyard. When Xiao Chen saw this person's face, he smiled coldly in his heart. This person was Jiang Muheng's other servant, the one who boasted that he could kill Xiao Chen with one slap. The Jiang clan was indeed very powerful in Whitewater City. In less than half a day, they actually managed to find his residence. It looked like he could not stay here for long. Seeing the figure getting closer, Xiao Chen slowly stood at the corner of the courtyard. He withdrew his aura, and the black lunar shadow saber in his hand did not have any luster in the night. Dong! The figure landed firmly on the wall of Xiao Chen's courtyard from the roofs. He was not in a rush to get down. Instead, he released his perception. Strangely, he did not feel anyone in the courtyard. He muttered to himself, could the information be wrong? That can't be. It should be that the brat has not returned yet. I will go down and lie in ambush. Drawing the saber. In the instant he jumped down, there was a resplendent electric light in the dark night. A saber light carrying an unparalleled aura was extremely fast. Before he could react, it chopped his body in half. This saber was incredibly fast. His body that was chopped in half did not immediately split apart in midair. He did not even feel any pain. Chapter 93. After he landed on the ground, his legs carried his lower body. Using the momentum from the jump, he ran for a few meters. After an instant, his face revealed a horrified expression. He stared blankly at his legs that were running in front of him. He turned his head and saw Xiao Chen's cold eyes the instant the electric light disappeared. Xiao Chen shot out a strand of purple flame and burned the corpse on the ground to ashes. After that, he went into his room to pack his things and immediately left the courtyard. Early the next morning, Xiao Chen came out of a desolate inn. He was wearing a black cloak that covered his entire body in a black shadow. He slowly walked towards Liushang Pavilion. Xiao Chen's attire was not unusual among cultivators. Hence, when he walked into Liushang Pavilion, he did not attract much attention. He casually found a table and sat down. Xiao Chen called the waiter over and said, "Call your boss over for a moment. Tell him I have business to discuss with him." The waiter looked at Xiao Chen and felt that it was funny. Is the boss of Liushang Pavilion someone anyone can meet? My apologies, sir. I think you might not understand our rules. Xiao Chen smiled faintly and took out a banknote worth 500 taels of silver. He also took out a wooden sculpture and handed it to the waiter. Do me a favor and run some errands. When your boss sees this wooden sculpture, he should not blame you. The waiter beamed with joy as he received the banknote and placed it in his bosom. He said, "Sir is really straightforward. I will go now. However, I cannot guarantee that the boss will not see you." Xiao Chen picked up the teacup on the table and gently took a sip. He smiled and said, "It's fine. You just have to let him know. Whether it succeeds or not is not your fault." Not long after the waiter left, the thumping footsteps of Kim Tae-ho could be heard coming from the second floor. When he saw Xiao Chen's attire, he was slightly stunned. Then, he ran over with a smile, "Brother Xiao, why are you dressed like this? Are you going to run away? If you need to escape, you can look for me. I have my ways. Just tell me where you want to go." Xiao Chen didn't say anything. His right hand, which was holding the teacup, suddenly reached out and snatched the wooden carving from Fatso's hand. He put down the wooden carving and calmly caught the slowly falling teacup. Kim Tae-ho's eyes narrowed into a thin line as he carefully sized up Xiao Chen. He was a little surprised in his heart. He didn't expect Xiao Chen to act so quickly. Due to his carelessness, he actually fell for it. Xiao Chen put down the teacup and said indifferently, "Brother De Bao, I don't need you to worry about escaping. Today, we are only talking about business. I am a straightforward person. I will only ask you one thing, are you doing it or not?" A smile bloomed on Kim Tae-ho's face again. "I'll do it. Why wouldn't I? Xiao Qin said, in that case, let's discuss the specifics of the plan. I will not carve the wooden carving that you saw last time. The wooden carving that we will be working on is the one that you saw earlier. Fatso frowned and said with some difficulty, I say, Brother Xiao, for these two wooden carvings, the difference in price is not just 1 or 2 times that of the other without clothes. In that case, there is no other way. I have my own bottom line. I will not sell the princess Yu carving that I saw wearing a bra. I will take my leave first. Xiao Qin got up and headed out. Fatso quickly got up and pulled Xiao Qin back. He smiled and said, Brother Xiao, why are you in such a rush? Did I say I won't do it? It's just that we need to discuss the price. Sit down and talk. Sit down and talk. Xiao Qin smiled to himself. He had already expected that this Fatso would covet this business. He had calculated that Fatso would not let him leave just like that. When dealing with such a scheming person, Xiao Qin could not compete with him in scheming. He could only put on a strong front. That way, he would not be at a disadvantage. When Jean Fatso saw Xiao Qin sit down again, he said, How about this? Brother Xiao, you are a straightforward person. I will not beat around the bush. We will follow the previous plan. You will provide the goods, and I will provide the channels. After that, we will split it 30 to 70. You take 30% and I take 70%. Xiao Qin thought for a while and said, I do not like such a split. It is too slow to earn money. Just state your price. How much is it for one wooden carving? Fatso muttered to himself for a while before saying, How about 100 taels of gold for one wooden carving? Xiao Qin was startled. He did not expect it to be so expensive. 100 taels of gold was equivalent to 10,000 taels of silver. The cost of this wooden carving was practically negligible. This transaction was much bigger than what Xiao Qin had imagined. The taels of silver he had were obtained from the Linlang Pavilion's auction for the fasting pill. Compared to the complexity of refining medicine, Xiao Qin had a much easier time carving a wooden carving. In the Compendium of Cultivation, in the introduction of the life bestowal spell, there was a special record of carving a wooden carving. Xiao Qian's craftsmanship came from it. In this world where martial arts were respected, there were not many people who specialized in this kind of unorthodox technique. It would not be an exaggeration to say that Xiao Qian's craftsmanship was unparalleled. Originally, Xiao Qin wanted to reject Fatso's plan. However, the assassination attempt last night made him feel a sense of urgency in his heart. The path of cultivation was extremely costly. Not to mention expensive medicinal pills, just good battle armor and spirit weapons required a cultivator to put in a lot of effort. Why were the disciples of the noble clans able to cultivate faster than ordinary people? One of the reasons was because of good quality medicinal pills and spirit weapons. Although Xiao Qin could refine medicinal pills to earn money, he was still unable to refine high-ranked medicinal pills. Furthermore, some of the medicinal ingredients required a lot of money. Furthermore, Xiao Qin still needed to refine magic treasures in the future. Good materials required a lot of money, so he was actually very short of money. When Fatso saw that Xiao Qin did not say anything, he thought that Xiao Qin thought the price was too low. He said, Brother Xiao, are you not satisfied with this price? I am not taking advantage of you at this price. It cannot be any higher. Xiao Qin recovered his wits and smiled, No, I am just a little surprised. How did you manage to sell this wooden carving for such a high price? Shwa! The golden folding fan in Fatso's hand suddenly opened up. Xiao Qin knew that when Fatso did this, he was going to start bragging. Indeed, Fatso waved his fan fiercely a few times and smiled proudly, Brother Xiao, you probably do not know about this. This princess's influence in the imperial capital and the king's residence is not an exaggeration at all. Not only is she extremely skilled in martial arts, she is also as beautiful as a fairy. This fat lord noticed this long ago. There is a business opportunity in this. I have already found people to write a few books for her. It can be said that every man in the imperial capital has one. Under the influence of the books, there are also all sorts of side effects. I have already thought of the idea of this wooden carving long ago. Unfortunately, I have not been able to find a suitable craftsman. Hence, when I saw Brother Xiao, I felt that we were fated. I have been searching for a talent like you for a long time already. Xiao Qin sighed in his heart. This fatso is really a genius at doing business. He actually thought of such a business method. In the end, Xiao Qin suddenly thought of something. He asked probingly, Brother De Bao, are those novels of yours erotic? Fatso smiled awkwardly, this. I can't say that they are erotic. I can only say that they are fantasy novels with some romance elements. Xiao Qin blushed with shame in his heart. He knew that this fatso would not take the proper path. He asked worriedly, are you not afraid of the royal court finding out about this? Fatso smiled wretchedly and said, there is no need to worry about this. The high-ranking official in charge of collecting these books even discussed the details of the novels with me in private. These are still serialized. If he were to confiscate all of them, he would not be able to read them. Xiao Qin could not help but admire Fatso's skill. He took out the wooden carvings from the Xiao clan and handed them to Fatso. These were carved in the past. There are not many, only about 100. Name a price. Jean Fatso did not say anything. His chubby face was filled with an excited smile. He picked up the wooden carvings in his hands and inspected them carefully. On the 4th floor of Liushang Pavilion, Jiang Muheng and Duan Muqing sat alone at a table. Jiang Muheng smiled gracefully and said, Miss Duanmu, I have already negotiated with that person yesterday about the spirit fox. My servant has already gone to collect the goods and will send them over to you immediately. Duan Muqing smiled gently, how much did you spend on it? I will pay you double the price. I will not let you suffer a loss. It was rare to see Duan Muqing smile. The smile on Jiang Muheng's face became even wider as he said, I did not spend much money. Miss Duanmu does not have to worry about it. As long as you like it, it is fine. Duan Muqing was slightly startled. He smiled and said, yesterday, that person wanted a heaven-ranked spirit beast before he was willing to sell it. Young Master Jiang, did you play some tricks? Jiang Muheng panicked in his heart and said sternly, Miss Duanmu, although my clan has some influence in Whitewater City, I do not normally do such things. Furthermore, if I were to play any tricks in front of Miss Duanmu, wouldn't I be looking down on the Duanmu clan? Duan Muqing found it funny and did not say anything. The two of them continued to wait. However, after waiting for a long time, the servant that Jiang Muheng mentioned had not arrived. I think something must have happened. We will talk about this another day. I will leave first. Duan Muqing finally lost his patience. He got up and walked down the stairs. Jiang Muheng cursed that servant in his heart. He threw down a stack of banknotes and quickly chased after Duan Muqing. Jiang Muheng chased all the way to the 2nd floor and finally caught up to Duan Muqing. He quickly said in a loud voice, Miss Duanmu, listen to my explanation. Duan Muqing stopped and said politely, Young Master Jiang, there is nothing to explain. It was not a big deal in the first place. You don't have to take it to heart. Seeing Duan Muqing's expression, Jiang Muheng knew in his heart that he was in deep trouble. He could not help but feel anxious. At this moment, Jean Fatso finally finished inspecting the 100 wooden carvings. He smiled and put them away. Then he took out a stack of banknotes and handed them to Xiao Qin, Brother Xiao, please count them. Xiao Qin put away the banknotes and stood up, there is no need to count them. It was a pleasure working with you. I will give you more when I have more later. When he turned around, he coincidentally met Jiang Muheng's gaze. When Jiang Muheng saw the black-cloaked Xiao Qin, he revealed a look of astonishment. Xiao Qin. After the astonishment, there was boundless rage. Jiang Muheng did not expect to meet him here. His embarrassment turned into anger as he walked towards Xiao Qin. Chapter 94. Jiang Muheng did not expect to meet Xiao Qin here. When he thought of what happened yesterday and what happened just now, he could no longer hold back the anger he had suppressed for a long time. Even though Duanmu Qing was beside him, Xiao Qin could not be bothered to maintain his demeanor. He only had one thought in his mind now, which was to kill Xiao Qin on the spot. He wanted to repay the humiliation that Xiao Qin had given him several times over. When Xiao Qin saw Jiang Muheng all of a sudden, he was mildly astonished. However, he quickly calmed down. Jiang Muheng did not bring any servants with him. "Young Master Jiang, we meet again." Xiao Qin had a faint smile on his face, he did not show any fear. Instead, it was as though he had met an old friend. He walked over to Jiang Muheng with a smile. Jiang Muheng cursed, "Meeting you." However, before he could finish cursing, he saw a black saber suddenly appear in Xiao Chen's hand. Xiao Chen's feet moved slightly, and he quickly got into a stance. Drawing the saber. A saber light flashed before his eyes. Jiang Muheng had never seen such a fast saber before. He had also never seen such a strong person. To think that he dared to make the first move in front of him in Whitewater City. At the critical moment, he brought out the strength of a medial-grade martial master to its limits and retreated with all his might. His extraordinary performance at the critical moment saved his life. This saber did not chop him in half. However, it still left a finger-deep wound on his chest. Blood spurted out into the air. The saber carried a huge force, sending Xiao Chen's body flying back. A large hole appeared on Jiang Muheng's chest and a yellow drawing floated out. Xiao Chen quickly grabbed the drawing in her hands. When Jiang Muheng, who was lying on the ground, saw that Xiao Chen had obtained the drawing, he wanted to stand up. However, he discovered that the saber wound on his chest was too severe. Blood continued to flow out, he did not even have the strength to stand up. He could not help but feel anxious. He coughed out blood in the air and said loudly, "Miss Duanmu, that is a copy of the map of the ancient remnant. You must not let him obtain it." Hearing this, Duanmuking's face turned cold. She waved her hands and streams of cold air spread out behind her, gathering in her hands. A sharp palm imbued with cold qi chopped ruthlessly at Xiao Chen. The other party was very strong, so Xiao Chen did not dare to take it head-on. With a light tap of his toes on the ground, he soared into the air and jumped down from the second floor. Boom! The table behind Xiao Chen was immediately frozen into an ice sculpture. Then, it shattered with a loud bang, turning into countless ice shards. What a tyrannical cold qi! When the cultivators on the second floor saw this, they were shocked. They quickly paid their bills and left. They did not want to be affected by this fight. Bang! When Duanmuking saw Xiao Chen land on the first floor, he stomped on the wooden plank under his right foot. His figure immediately landed on the first floor and appeared beside Xiao Chen. Holy shit! Is he trying to tear down the shop? Jean Fatso could not help but curse loudly when he saw the hole in the wooden plank. After Duanmuking landed, he immediately sent out a stream of cold qi at Xiao Chen's back. The cold qi quickly condensed into ice in the air, turning into the shape of a small bird. Qi! Duanmuking formed a hand seal with both his hands, and the ice phoenix martial spirit in his body cried out. The eyes of the ice bird flying in the air lit up, and its size and speed instantly doubled. A dangerous aura came from behind him. Xiao Chen immediately stopped and his mind went blank. He recalled the state he was in when he practiced the saber. He was extremely focused and his right hand grasped the lunar shadow saber tightly. He instantly raised his aura to the extreme. Drawing the saber. When the ice bird was only half a meter behind Xiao Chen suddenly turned around and made a move. The saber light was simple and unadorned. With a schwa sound, it split the ice bird in half from the middle. The part of the body of the ice bird that was split in half by the saber was very smooth. There were no cracks or bumps at all. This showed how fast the saber was. A trace of astonishment flashed in Duanmuking's heart. There were no ripples in his limpid eyes and his expression did not change. Taking advantage of the instant Xiao Chen drew his saber, Xiao Chen moved and blocked the entrance of Liushang Pavilion. Most of the customers on the first floor were ordinary citizens. When they saw Xiao Chen flying down from the second floor, they knew there was a fight going on. They all paid their bills and left. Duan Muqing looked at Xiao Chen expressionlessly and said indifferently, "Hand over the map and I will not harm your life." Xiao Chen held his saber and stood upright. He smiled coldly in his heart. If an ordinary superior-grade martial disciple was struck by the ice bird, they would be severely injured, if not dead. Now that she saw him break the ice bird in one move and said she would not harm his life, Xiao Chen could only say that this girl's schemes were not ordinary. Xiao Chen did not say anything. He pointed with his left hand and 5 strands of purple flames formed in the air. After they spun around, they quickly shot towards Duan Muqing. Duan Muqing's expression turned cold. Seeing that Xiao Chen did not know what was good for him and actually dared to make a move against her, she snorted coldly. The temperature around her dropped and a boundless cold qi rose up from the ground. When the 5 strands of purple flames met the cold qi, their speed immediately slowed down. However, what surprised Duan Muqing was that the 5 strands of flames did not stop immediately. The 5 wisps of flames did not immediately stop. Instead, they slowly arched forward like small fish. Although their speed was slow, they would never retreat. With a thought from Xiao Chen, the 5 strands of flames merged together and formed a huge flame. Their speed suddenly increased explosively. The cold qi in the air could no longer stop the advancement of the flames. Duan Muqing's black eyes became even colder. The cold qi surrounding her started to slowly liquefy. D. The cold qi turned into water droplets and continuously dripped onto the wooden boards around Duan Muqing. The water droplets quickly linked together and formed a hard ice. Dang! 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 3 ice walls rose up from the ice and appeared in front of Duan Muqing. The purple flames smashed through the first ice wall and continued flying towards the second ice wall. Xiao Chen's thoughts were as fast as lightning. After the purple flames passed through the first ice wall, he could clearly feel that the might of the flames had decreased significantly. He knew that these flames would not be able to cause any harm to Duan Muqing. "I will not be able to gain any advantage, I have to leave." Xiao Chen made up his mind and immediately flew towards the nearest window. A superior-grade martial Grand Master against a superior-grade martial Grand Master was clearly irrational. Bang! After the purple flames smashed through the third ice wall, they immediately dissipated into the air, turning into nothingness. Duan Muqing watched as Xiao Chen flew away. The cold light in her eyes became even more intense and her fine black hair fluttered in the wind. "Ice!" Duan Muqing shouted and her clothes fluttered. Her long skirt and fine black hair fluttered in the wind. She locked her perception on the first floor of Liushang Pavilion. An intense cold qi suddenly erupted from her body. Shua! In the entire first floor, everything was covered in a layer of ice that was 2 feet thick. In an instant, the first floor turned into an ice palace that radiated a cold light. The originally open window was now covered in a thick layer of ice. Xiao Chen's flying figure crashed violently into the ice. There was a loud bang, but the ice did not tremble at all. Xiao Chen was knocked back to the ground by the huge recoil. The speed at which he was sent flying was extremely fast. When he crashed into the ice, he bounced back. He felt an incomparable soreness in his shoulder. Is this the power of an innate bloodline, an inherited martial spirit? Xiao Chen looked at the surroundings radiating with an icy light. He was incomparably astonished as he thought to himself, "This is simply too horrifying." Duan Muqing walked over slowly. Her fine black hair had already turned completely white. Her eyes were ice cold, without a trace of emotion. "Hand over the map, and I will not harm your life," she said. With every word she said, the temperature of the ice palace dropped by a notch. The purple thunder divine incantation in Xiao Chen's body circulated rapidly, resisting the boundless cold wind in the ice palace. Just as Xiao Chen was hesitating whether to take out the map or not, Bai jumped out from the spirit blood jade and stood in front of Xiao Chen. It took a deep breath and its snow-white belly expanded slightly. It spat out a white ball of light from its mouth. Damn! When Xiao Chen saw Bai's actions, he cursed in his heart. He pushed off the ground and expended all the essence in his body. The electricity in the lunar shadow saber leaped around non-stop. Ha! Xiao Chen shouted loudly and flew towards the window. He stabbed the lunar shadow saber into the ice wall. Under Xiao Chen's full power strike, a small crack appeared on the hard ice. Bang! 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 Xiao Chen felt incomparably anxious. He withdrew his saber and clenched his fist, punching the crack violently. He finally managed to create a small hole in the hard ice wall. Xiao Chen did not care much and directly made his way out. When Duan Yuking saw that Xiao Chen wanted to escape, a cold light flashed in her eyes. She was about to make a move. However, at this moment, the ball of light that Bai spat out had already arrived in front of her. When faced with this incomparably ordinary ball of light, Duan Yuking did not care too much about it. She casually sent out a palm strike. How strong could the attack of a young spirit beast be? The instant Duan Yuking's palm touched the ball of light, the ice palace lit up with a resplendent light. This light was even more dazzling than the sun. It was so dazzling that no one dared to look at it directly. Boom! The light scattered and a horrifying energy ripple spread out in all directions. In that instant, the ice palace that Duan Yuking made instantly shattered. Boom! 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 All the pillars on the first floor of Liushang Pavilion were shattered. In the next moment, the entire Liushang Pavilion collapsed. All the buildings turned into rubble. Xiao Chen, who had just made his way out, did not have time to dodge. He was struck by the shock wave and flew into the air, vomiting a mouthful of blood. A white figure ran out from the rubble of Liushang Pavilion. Bai quickly ran to Xiao Chen. Its face was devoid of spirit, it did not have its usual cheekiness, it was dispirited and listless. Seeing it in such a state, the anger in Xiao Chen's heart dissipated significantly. He carried it in his embrace and quickly rushed forward. This was because the danger was not over yet. Xiao Chen's spiritual sense could sense a monstrous aura brewing in the rubble of Liushang Pavilion. Qi! A resonant phoenix cry resounded, reverberating throughout the entire Whitewater City. A flowing body of ice flew out from the rubble of Liushang Pavilion and into the air. Then, it turned into a huge ice phoenix. The ice phoenix flapped its wings in the air and a horrifying perception spread out in all directions. It locked onto Xiao Chen's back and soared into the sky. In the instant that Duan Yuking turned into the ice phoenix and flew away, a smaller figure leaped out from Liushang Pavilion. It carried a zither and leaped towards the two of them. After a long time, a dust-covered fatso stood up from the rubble while cursing. He looked at the mess that was Liushang Pavilion, which had turned into rubble. He cursed in dissatisfaction, "Who did I offend?" Chapter 95. That is Duan Yuking. He actually revealed the origin of his inherited martial spirit. How strong is his opponent? Indeed, even from 1,000 meters away, the martial spirit that has existed since the time of the Tianwu dynasty still gives off such a heavy pressure. Ha, you guys probably don't know. According to the people from Liushang Pavilion, the one who forced Duan Yuking to reveal her martial spirit's origin was only a superior grade martial disciple. Furthermore, he seems to be an outsider. That is impossible. Duan Yuking is a martial grand master. If he met a superior grade martial disciple, it would be like squashing an ant. How could he reveal his martial spirit's origin? He probably even used his martial techniques. It is absolutely true. I came from Liushang Pavilion. That person is indeed only a superior grade martial disciple. First, he injured Jiang Muheng and snatched away a map of the ancient remnant. Then, he escaped from Duan Yuking's hands. In the sky, the ice phoenix flashed a cold light as it soared above the 9 heavens. Every corner of Whitewater City could see it clearly. Many cultivators were discussing it. Whitewater City, Jiang residence, the last disciple of the Misty Sword sect master, Chu Chaoyun, looked at the ice phoenix in the sky. His expression changed slightly as he muttered, "Who is it?" To actually be able to force Duanmuking to reveal his martial spirit's origin. After he spoke, a sword of light appeared under his feet, carrying him into the sky. He turned into a sword image and chased after Duanmuking. Soon, he disappeared into the sky. In another room of the Jiang residence, the Hua clan's heir, Hua Yunfei, looked at Duanmuking in the sky. He revealed a playful smile on his face. After Chu Chaoyun rode on his sword and flew off, he said, "Interesting. I want to see what kind of deity could attract the 2 geniuses of Dongming province." In the room, a few elders of the Hua clan advised, "Crown Prince, we are only here for the dwelling of the ancient human powerhouse. It is best not to cause any trouble." Hua Yunfei smiled faintly and said proudly, "I have the Hua clan's rare mutated martial spirit. I am destined to rise in this era. No one can stop me. What is there to be afraid of with such a small wave? Don't follow me." After he finished speaking, he turned into a blood-red river that surged into the sky. Everywhere he passed, it was like a blood cloud that covered the sky and the sun. Evil Qi soared into the sky. In the room of the Jiang clan's Duanmu clan, a pretty woman looked at Duanmu Qing, who was in the air. She said worriedly, "Second elder, is Miss Duanmu in some danger? Should we make a move to help?" The dignified and elegant second elder had a calm expression on his face. He said indifferently, "There is no need. If she cannot even deal with such a small problem, how can she be the princess of our Duanmu clan?" At the same time, in the great hall of the Jiang clan head, Jiang Mingxuan, was quickly making arrangements. "First elder, immediately send people to Savage Forest. Regardless of whether they are dead or alive, find that person. We must obtain the map of the ancient remnant. We cannot let the people of the 3 major powers obtain it." Second elder, immediately set off to receive that esteemed guest from Nanling province. Whether our Jiang clan can obtain any fortuitous encounters this time will depend on this esteemed guest. Third elder, go to Liushang Pavilion and find that trash, Mu Heng. Lock him up for a month. Because of Xiao Chen's saber strike, undercurrents surged in Whitewater City, the winds and clouds changed color. However, no matter how shocking the situation in the outside world was, or how the winds and clouds surged, Fatso's current mood was one of unshakable grief. This grief flowed like a river, repeatedly washing away Fatso's weak heart. "Young master, don't just stand there. You have already been standing there for an hour. If you continue standing there, there will be problems with your body." In the ruins of Liushang Pavilion, a manservant consoled the grieving Kim Tae-ho. Although Liushang Pavilion had completely collapsed, there were not many casualties. The guests on the first and second floors had already retreated before the explosion. The cultivators on the third and fourth floors had higher cultivations, they had all jumped out the instant the building collapsed. The waiters and manservants in the inn were all smart people. When it happened, not a single one of them remained. After it happened, they all reappeared. Just as Fatso was about to reprimand them, a soft moan could be heard. Kim Tae-ho's heart skipped a beat as he quickly looked towards the source of the sound. Pushing aside a few heavy wooden boards, Kim Tae-ho saw the severely injured Jiang Muheng. The wound that Xiao Qin made on his chest was very deep, his internal organs could be seen. At this moment, the wound had not healed yet, blood was still flowing out slowly. His originally severely injured body, in addition to the collapse of Liushang Pavilion, the current Jiang Muheng was on his last breath. He could not help but moan, he was as pitiful as he could be, he no longer had his usual demeanor. Jean Fatso rolled his eyes and the worry on his face disappeared. He smiled at Jiang Muheng and said, "Isn't this young Master Jiang? Why are you like this? Save me." Jiang Muheng's complexion was pale, He was extremely weak. His voice was weak as he spoke intermittently. Kim Tae-ho moved his ear closer and said loudly, "Young Master Jiang, what are you saying? Speak louder." "Oh, I heard you. Save you. No problem." Kim Tae-ho's face was full of smiles as he took out a porcelain bottle. He waved it in front of Jiang Muheng and said, "Young Master Jiang, do you see this? This is the peak-grade golden sore medicine refined by a rank 7 alchemist. As long as you sprinkle it on your wound, no matter what kind of injury it is, it will immediately heal. Furthermore, this medicine does not have any side effects, it will not leave behind any scars. It is definitely the best choice for an elegant young master like you." Jean Fatso extended the medicine bottle in front of Jiang Muheng and said enticingly. Jiang Muheng's pale face revealed a trace of joy. He stretched out his left hand with much difficulty, wanting to grab the porcelain bottle. However, Jean Fatso quickly retracted his hand. The joy on Jiang Muheng's face disappeared. He looked at Kim Tae-ho with doubt, not knowing what was going on. Kim Tae-ho's chubby face revealed a difficult expression. He said, "Young Master Jiang, the moment I saw you, I felt that we were fated. If it were any other day, I would not have any complaints even if I gave this golden sore medicine to you. However, look at this Liushang pavilion today. Because of you, it turned into ruins. This fat lord's path to riches has been completely cut off. Now, I am extremely poor. Doesn't your Jiang clan have a business district in the west of the city? How about lending it to this fat lord to reopen Liushang pavilion? As long as you say the word, I will personally apply this peak-grade golden sore medicine on you." This fatso was really shameless. His Liushang pavilion was at most a restaurant. Its annual sales in Whitewater City would be at most 5 million silver taels. However, the Jiang clan's business district had countless shops. Just the rent alone would be 20 million silver taels. Based on Fatso's tone, it was as though the Jiang clan was the one profiting. Jiang Muheng's lips moved, his voice was extremely weak. Kim Tae-ho moved his ear closer and said loudly, "Young Master Jiang, what are you saying? Speak louder, I can't hear you. What did you say about, Scram, your mother? Damn it." After Fatso heard this, the smile on his face immediately disappeared. He said with a straight face, "This fat lord saved your life out of goodwill. I only asked for a street, yet you actually scolded this fat lord. This fat lord really can't afford to be hurt. This feeling of being snubbed while showing kindness is really unpleasant. Let's go. This fat lord will block here. Let's see who dares to come over. Even if your Jiang clan's people come, they will not be able to take your people away." Fatso had just taken a step when a hand grabbed his pants. Kim Tae-ho had already expected that Jiang Muheng would not be satisfied. He quickly turned around with a face full of smiles and said, "Young Master Jiang, have you changed your mind? Your voice is too soft. Let me listen. Please don't scold this fat lord again. This fat lord will get angry too. You, quickly come over and squat down." Young Master Jiang has already agreed. A brush, ink, paper, and inkstone instantly appeared in Fatso's hands. A manservant squatted on the ground. Fatso placed the brush in his mouth in a very coquettish manner. Then, he dipped the brush in ink and started writing wildly. After he finished drafting the contract, he placed it under Jiang Muheng's hand. He smiled and said, "Young Master Jiang, please give me your handprint. Then, please sign your name." Good writing. Even though young Master Jiang is severely injured, your writing is still very elegant. You have the demeanor of a great master. After Jiang Muheng signed, Fatso immediately put away the contract. Then, he took out the bottle of peak-grade golden salve and slowly applied it on Jiang Muheng's wounds. The pained expression on Jiang Muheng's face slowly eased up. He had been on the verge of being severely injured. Now that he relaxed, he immediately fainted. Ha ha ha. How delightful. I lost a gold mine in exchange for a mountain of treasures. Fatso laughed maniacally as he held the contract. When the manservant saw that Fatso really gave the peak-grade golden salve to Jiang Muheng, he felt confused and asked, "Young master, did you really apply the peak-grade golden salve refined by a rank 7 alchemist?" "Indeed, is there a problem?" That manservant said doubtfully, "This is not like young master's style. I thought young master would just casually take some rank 3 alchemy and brush it off." Fatso put away the contract again. He took out the golden folding fan and knocked on the manservant's head violently. He laughed loudly, "What do you know? Do you think there are many people like Jiang Muheng in the entire Great Qin nation? Doesn't their Jiang clan still have 3 streets? This fat lord, will treat him. Next time, I will look for him and cheat him of 3 streets. This bit of medicine money is nothing." That manservant said in admiration, "Young master is truly brilliant. This is casting a long line to catch a big fish. Why didn't I think of this? In the future, do not ask me such a question that degrades one's intelligence," Fatso said in a pretentious manner. After he spoke, he opened up the golden folding fan and fanned it violently a few times. He raised his head at a 45-degree angle and looked at the clouds in the sky. He said ruefully, "Sometimes, having a high intelligence is a form of melancholy. I ask the heavens, who in this world can understand me? Life is truly as lonely as snow." Wah! Just as Fatso finished speaking, all the manservants and waiters in the ruins of Liushang Pavilion could not help but vomit. Chapter 96. Outside of Whitewater City, Shaochen rushed madly towards Savage Forest. When he saw the weak and unconscious Bai in his arms, his heart ached. The attack that Bai executed earlier was the sharpest attack of the mysterious 9 Heavenly Revolution transformation. It compressed all the essence in its body into 9 strands and then released them explosively. It was very taxing on the body. When Shaochen was training in Savage Forest, he once met a rank 4 spirit beast. At the critical moment, Bai used this move. At that time, Shaochen understood the might of this move and the damage it did to the body. Hence, he scolded Bai harshly and warned it not to use it again. He did not expect it to use it today. When Shaochen looked up, he saw Duanmuking in the form of an ice phoenix in hot pursuit. In 2 different directions in the sky, a figure on a sword and a scarlet cloud attracted Shaochen's attention. After hearing Fatso's introduction, Shaochen already guessed the identities of the 2 people chasing him. He smiled faintly, "The 3 geniuses of Dongming province are working together to chase after me. They are overestimating me." Shaochen executed the azure dragon cloud soaring art that he comprehended to its limits. He leaped about on the ground. Looking from a distance, it looked like an azure dragon moving about in the air, creating shockwaves. As long as he entered Savage Forest, Shaochen was confident of being able to shake off his pursuers. He had been cultivating in Savage Forest for more than a month and was very familiar with it. Boom! Just as Shaochen was about to step into the periphery of Savage Forest, Duanmuking suddenly turned into a piece of ice and fell in front of Shaochen. The ice melted on the ground like water. After that, it surged continuously. In an instant, it turned into a human figure. Duanmuking's beautiful figure appeared in front of Shaochen. Her white hair fluttered in the wind, and there was not a trace of fire in her eyes. She was like a goddess who had transcended the mortal world. Her cold voice slowly opened her mouth and said, "Hand over the sketch, and I won't make things difficult for you." Shaochen did not answer her, he executed the lightning evasion to dodge. If he wanted to hand it over, Shaochen would have given it to her at Liushang Pavilion. Now that they were already at the edge of Savage Forest, they had to fight for it. Although Shaochen did not know what this map was, seeing how nervous she was, it was definitely not an ordinary map. Hua! Hua! A river of blood descended from the sky. Shua! The river of blood landed on the ground. Hua Yunfei's figure appeared behind Duanmuking. Chi! Chu Chaoyun, who was riding on his sword, quickly descended and landed firmly on the ground. The sword of light under his feet turned into a beam of light and flew into his forehead. The three of them were not in a rush to chase after Xiao Chen. Hua Yunfei looked at the two of them and revealed a sinister smile. Since Miss Duanmu did not manage to catch this brat, how about this? The three of us will use our own abilities to chase after him. No matter who obtains the sketch, we will share it with the other party. What do you think? Chu Chaoyun's expressionless face did not reveal any expression. He said, I agree. Our three clans came uninvited. These few days, Jiang Mingxuan has been resisting the pressure and refusing to lead the way. He must be waiting for help. I heard that the Ji clan of Nanling province will be arriving soon. At that time, we will have another strong opponent. As long as we are ahead of the Jiang clan and snatch the sketch, our three clans can ignore the Jiang clan and work together to explore. Duan Muking's white hair slowly turned black. The otherworldly look in her eyes became much gentler. Her red lips parted slightly as she said, sure. After the three of them spoke, they immediately flew into the depths of savage forest. They used their own methods and chased after Xiao Chen. After the three of them left, Su Xiaoxiao slowly appeared while hugging her zither. She said softly, it really is the blue dragon cloud soaring art. I was not wrong the last time. The head of the four holy beasts, the blue dragon martial spirit, has reappeared in the world. After she spoke, she did not enter savage forest. There was a look of contemplation in her eyes. After a while, she hugged her zither and quickly rushed towards Whitewater City. Not long after Su Xiaoxiao left, the first elder of the Jiang clan, Jiang Yunze, led a group of cultivators from the Jiang clan and rushed over. This group of cultivators were all martial masters, and there was a total of more than 200 of them. Jiang Yunze looked at the savage forest in front of him and said, split into 20 teams. Each team has 10 people. After you discover the target, make your move immediately. 10 martial masters against one superior grade martial disciple should be foolproof. After he spoke, he took out a few portraits and handed them to the group. Savage forest is too big. With just the few of us, we might not be able to find him. If you meet cultivators who are out for experiential training, hand these portraits to them and ask for their assistance in the hunt. In the periphery of savage forest, Xiao Chen was running very quickly. He extended out his spiritual sense and everything that happened within 800 meters of him was recorded in his mind. The entire savage forest stretched for thousands of kilometers. Just the periphery alone was more than 1,000 hectares. Furthermore, aside from spirit beasts, there were also many cultivators here for experiential training and hunting. Xiao Chen hiding in there was like a drop of water in the ocean. Hu Qi. A pack of gray wolves appeared in the range of Xiao Chen's spiritual sense. The gray wolves were rank 3 spirit beasts that lived in packs. Every time they appeared, there would be at least 20 of them. Xiao Chen knew that they would not be easy to deal with, so he prepared to go around them. Withdrawing his spiritual sense, Xiao Chen moved to the side. Just at this moment, there was the sound of footsteps. Xiao Chen's heart trembled. He did not know who it was, so he quickly hid in the bushes at the side. That brat really knows how to hide. After searching for so long, I have not even seen a shadow. I really don't know how this brat offended the Jiang clan, to actually be wanted by the Jiang clan, with a bounty of 1,000 gold taels. I heard that this brat snatched away a treasure map from the Jiang clan. It is the map of the ancient remnant of the human race that has been spreading like wildfire recently. Say, if we manage to get our hands on it, can we go and try our luck? Haha, with your cultivation as a medial grade martial master, I advise you not to even think about it. That map is just a copy, the original is still in the hands of the Jiang clan. The 3 powers of Dongming province are all here. I'm afraid you will be killed before you even get close to the ancient remnant. We should just hand this map over to the Jiang clan and earn some money. That's true. No matter how tempting a treasure is, without a life to enjoy it, it is just empty talk. Let's keep searching, I clearly saw that brat running over here. Xiao Chen, who was in the bushes, was astonished. The power of the Jiang clan in this area was indeed horrifying. They actually managed to bribe the cultivators in the periphery of savage forests so quickly. This is going to be troublesome, I have to hurry over there. A cultivator was holding a saber in his hand as he walked towards the bushes that Xiao Chen was in. The saber in his hand was continuously chopping away the thorns blocking his way. I'm going to be discovered, I can't go on like this. Seeing that person getting closer, Xiao Chen thought to himself, I have to make the first move. Hua! Xiao Chen jumped out from the bushes and swung his saber. In the instant that person was shocked, he chopped him in half. After that, he quickly rushed towards the remaining 5 cultivators. Ninth brother has been killed by him, quickly kill him. When everyone saw that Xiao Chen had chopped ninth brother in half with one saber strike, they were all astonished. Ninth brother was a medial grade martial master, yet he was actually killed by this person with one saber strike. Drawing the saber. Xiao Chen executed the rushing thunder saber technique. The lunar shadow saber gave off an electric glow, and the energy of the rank 6 demonic core was released without holding anything back. The saber light flashed in the air, and another cultivator in front was chopped in half. Arclight chop. I'll kill you. A cultivator at the side saw that another of his companions had been killed by Xiao Chen. Facing this flawless arclight chop, his eyes turned bloodshot. He held his saber and chopped at Xiao Chen without any care. Pu Qi. Once the rushing thunder saber technique was executed, one would not be able to retreat. Otherwise, one's aura would drop to an extreme, and one would not be able to execute the aura of the rushing thunder chop for a short period of time. Xiao Chen did not dodge this saber strike. The saber landed on Xiao Chen's chest, leaving a bloody wound. However, before this person could rejoice, he was chopped in half by the arclight chop. Rushing heaven chop. Holding the lunar shadow saber, Xiao Chen soared into the sky and pierced through the chest of the person in front of him. The huge force instantly blasted that person's body into countless pieces of meat. Rushing thunder chop. A clap of thunder resounded in the sky. Xiao Chen carried the might of the heavenly thunder as he charged through the air. The person below raised his saber to block. Bang! The saber immediately shattered, and the lunar shadow saber easily chopped his body in half from head to toe. Rushing thunder second chain chop. Xiao Chen turned around and swung his saber. The energy gathered by the first 4 saber strikes of the rushing thunder chop was released explosively with this rushing thunder second chain chop. The person who was about to sneak attack Xiao Chen from behind was crushed into powder by the huge force of this saber strike. Looking at the corpses of the 6 people on the ground, Xiao Chen did not feel any unease in his heart. Since these people wanted to kill him and steal the map, they had to be prepared to be killed. Taking out a qi returning pill and placing it in his mouth, Xiao Chen looked at the wound on his chest and frowned slightly. If the battle armor had not been damaged by Tang Feng, this saber strike would not have been able to injure him. After leaving Mo City, Xiao Chen discovered that the profound ranked battle armor that Xiao Xiong gave him had already lost its spirituality due to Tang Feng's attack. It was now no different from a normal soft armor. In order to not affect his movements, Xiao Chen simply threw away the battle armor. In the earlier battle, given Xiao Chen's strength, he could have easily dealt with this group of people. He would not have to exhaust much of his essence to kill them easily. Xiao Chen was afraid that if he dragged things out for too long, he would attract even more trouble. Thus, he used the rushing thunder saber technique, which consumed a lot of essence, in order to deal with them in a short amount of time. Taking out a blood replenishing pill, Xiao Chen crushed it and applied it on their wounds. Then, he opened the bags on the backs of the 6 cultivators. These were all cultivators who had trained in savage forest for a long time. There was a large amount of spirit beast inner cores and herbs in the bags. Xiao Chen counted them, there was a total of 4 rank 3 spirit beast inner cores and 5 rank 4 herbs. The rest were all cheap items, which Xiao Chen casually threw away. They are still worth some silver taels. Xiaochen revealed a smile on his face as he placed the rank 3 spirit beast inner cores and rank 4 herbs into his universe ring. For the rest of the journey, Xiaochen kept an eye out. He would rather expend his essence quickly and extend his spiritual sense. As long as he met someone, he would immediately avoid them. It did not matter if they had ulterior motives or not, he would just go around them. When it was close to dusk, Xiaochen arrived at an extremely desolate area in the outskirts of Savage Forest. When he arrived here, Xiaochen's tense expression finally relaxed and he withdrew his spiritual sense. He took large strides towards the forestland in front of him. His figure walked in the forest at a very strange pace. After a while, Xiaochen's figure suddenly disappeared into the forest like a ghost. Chapter 97. Within the forest, Xiaochen seemed to have vanished into thin air. When he reappeared, the environment in front of Xiaochen had undergone a complete change. In the distance, there was a gushing waterfall flowing down from a mountain stream, flowing into a long river below. The riverbank was a vast and spacious area. Just by standing on the riverbank, one could feel the fresh water vapor. This large river was known as the Zhuang River. There were many rivers in Savage Forest, and this Zhuang River was one of the most unremarkable ones. The place where Xiaochen was at was the source of the Zhuang River. To outsiders, this was an unremarkable place, no one would pay attention to it. However, Xiaochen's spiritual sense could sense an extraordinary existence in this place. There was a huge rock in the cave behind the waterfall. The spiritual energy in the surroundings was extremely dense. Cultivating on it would be faster than cultivating outside by at least 50%. After Xiaochen discovered this place by accident, he immediately laid down an illusion formation to fool others. This place was originally rather desolate. When Xiaochen laid down the formation, he did not have any worries, so he was very calm. Xiaochen used a total of 10 days to complete this illusion formation. As long as it was not a martial king expert, outsiders would not be able to discover this place. Even if they entered this place by mistake, they would unknowingly take a detour. Now that Xiaochen arrived at this place, he was completely safe. He found a flat rock and sat down cross-legged. He slowly circulated the purple thunder divine incantation and entered a state of cultivation. The morning sun rose and the sunlight shone down. The night passed just like that. Xiaochen opened his eyes and took a deep breath. He jumped down from the rock and went to the riverbank to wash his face. In the morning, the waterfall had stopped flowing. The surface of the river was as smooth as a mirror. Xiaochen raised his leg and stepped onto the surface of the river. His body magically stopped on the water's surface. His heart was as calm as still water. Xiaochen circulated the blue dragon cloud soaring art. He closed his eyes and slowly walked on the water's surface. With every step he took, ripples spread out in all directions. In ancient legends, dragons were the overlords of the sky and the sea. They could overturn rivers and seas, reverse mountains and rivers, and summon the wind and rain. They were omnipotent. When it soared above the 9 heavens, it could soar through the clouds. As it turned, wind and thunder surged, and it could travel 10,000 li in an instant. The blue dragon cloud soaring art was such a movement technique. When practiced to the great perfection stage, one could ride the clouds, ride the mist, and overturn rivers and seas. These days, Xiaochen had been practicing the blue dragon cloud soaring art in the Zhuang River. At first, he had no progress. Now, he had some small success and could walk slowly on the water surface. Xiaochen walked slowly on the water surface, comprehending the various mysteries of the blue dragon cloud soaring art. When the sun reached the top of his head, the sound of splashing water could be heard. The surging waterfall started to flow again. The calm river surface suddenly became turbulent. Xiaochen opened his eyes, they were filled with seriousness. Every day at this time, the trial truly began. If Xiaochen was not careful, he would immediately fall into the water and become a drowned rat. The river water flowed downwards rapidly. Xiao Qin stood on the water surface and moved against the current. Every step he took exhausted a large amount of essence. However, his body still swayed left and right on the water surface. Pu Tong. When he took 100 steps forward, Xiao Qin finally could not take it anymore and fell into the river. The turbulent river water carried Xiao Qian's body downstream quickly. The calm Zhuang River immediately revealed its sinister side. The turbulent river water carried a huge force. It continuously attacked Xiao Qian's body, making it difficult for him to maintain his balance. His body flowed downstream quickly. This was not the first time he encountered such a situation. Xiao Qin was calm and did not panic. He held his breath and his body slowly sank to the bottom of the river. He circulated his essence in his body, storing up power. The instant his feet touched the bottom of the river, he pushed off and his body shot out of the water like an arrow released from a bow. When his body reached the surface of the water once again, he pushed off lightly and somersaulted in the air, landing firmly on the shore. Looking at the rushing river water, Xiao Qin sighed in his heart. With such turbulent river water, even a regular cultivator would drown if they did not have a good state of mind. Xiao Qian's entire body was wet and uncomfortable. He wiped his face and took off his clothes. Then, he took out a set of dry clothes from the universe ring. At this moment, it was not suitable for him to continue practicing his movement technique. Xiao Qin did not waste any time. After he ate some dry rations, he took out a wooden stick and placed it on the ground. Xiao Qin held the lunar shadow saber in his hand and endured the blazing sun. He started to practice the first move of the rushing thunder saber technique, drawing the saber. In his opinion, this drawing the saber had to be practiced to the point where he could strike the wooden stick 12 times without it falling. Only then would it be considered to have reached great perfection. Right now, he could only swing the saber 4 times, barely reaching small perfection. There was still a long way to go before he could reach great perfection. Shua! 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 After practicing for 2 hours, this time, Xiao Qin struck out 5 times. The light wooden stick swayed a few times, but it did not fall. There is finally some improvement. I can strike out 5 times in a row. Xiao Qin wiped the sweat off his forehead. The handle of his saber was covered in sweat as he spoke joyfully. After leaving Mo City, Xiao Qin realized that there were too many geniuses in this world. He, Xiao Qin, was nothing. Just in Dongming province alone, the inheritors of the 3 great powers were only 16 or 17 years old. However, their cultivations had already reached the shocking martial Grand Master realm. This was a realm that ordinary people might not be able to reach in their entire lives. However, they were able to reach it easily at the age of 16 or 17. It could only be said that comparing oneself to others was infuriating. Looking at the entire world, it was unknown how many such demonic geniuses there were. His achievements, Xiao Qin, were not even worth mentioning. He was like a chestnut in the vast ocean, unremarkable. In this world where the strong ruled, since he was here, he would not be willing to be below others. He would not be a stepping stone for others, to be buried in the dust of history. Without a strong talent, he would have to put in 1,000 times the effort. Just like the Thunder King from 1,000 years ago. He was born in a poor family, but he relied on his own strength to trample on the geniuses of the noble clans. He had obtained the inheritance of the Thunder King. Even if he did not care about his own face, he had to take into account the illustrious reputation of the Thunder King. Since he did not have a demonic talent, then he would have to put in 1,000,000 times the effort. Xiao Qin set up another wooden staff and focused. He continued to practice drawing the saber tirelessly. The amount of wood shavings on the ground increased continuously. After an hour, Xiao Qin sheathed his saber and rested for a while. Then, he slowly walked to the shore and looked at the gushing waterfall in the distance. It had already weakened significantly. Kill! He shouted lightly and jumped onto the turbulent surface of the water. He sprinted against the current and went against the current. Waves of air surged around Xiao Chen and 2-meter-tall waves splashed on both sides of his body. Xiao Chen ran all the way, not stopping to rest. When he arrived at the waterfall, he shouted and leaped up high. A chi spear shot out from his body. With a shwa sound, Xiao Chen broke through the waterfall. He landed on a rock behind the waterfall. This was a cave that was recessed into the mountain wall. It was only about 2 meters deep. The cave was very humid. The waterfall at the entrance was like a curtain of water. It was very similar to the water curtain cave that Xiao Chen knew in his previous life. There was a very smooth rock in the cave. Xiao Chen revealed a faint smile as he slowly sat on it. He immediately entered into a state of cultivation. The purple thunder divine incantation circulated continuously in his body. The dense spiritual energy in the surroundings poured into Xiao Chen's body continuously. The spiritual energy was so dense that it was like a fog, almost to the point of liquefying. Xiao Chen only circulated it for one great cycle. The spiritual energy in his body had already filled all his meridians. There was a faint feeling of excitement coming from his martial spirit. Xiao Chen knew this was a sign of advancing. As long as he was willing, he could immediately return to the cultivation of an inferior grade martial master. However, Xiao Chen did not do so. Back then, when he executed the 9th Heaven's Thunder formation, his cultivation had dropped to superior grade martial disciple. After thinking about it carefully, he did not feel that it was a bad thing. Instead, it was an opportunity for him to stabilize his foundation. Xiao Chen had only spent a few months to advance from the spirit refinement realm to the inferior grade martial master realm. To a normal person, this was an inconceivable thing. No matter what, he had not truly solidified his foundation. The foundation of a tall building was the most important. Only when the foundation was stable would there be no accidents happening to the tall building, such as collapsing midway. The principle of the martial Tao was the same. If the spirit refinement realm was like digging a foundation, then the martial disciple realm was like filling in the foundation. Xiao Chen had entered the spirit refinement realm much later than others. He had spent a total of 15 years digging a foundation much deeper than others. All he had to do now was bury it again and create an unbreakable, iron-like foundation. With a thought, Xiao Chen infused all the absorbed spiritual energy into his skin, flesh, and bones, slowly tempering his body. After the essence circulated 9 great cycles in his body, Xiao Chen opened his eyes. His body was covered in a black viscous substance. Xiao Chen leaped out of the hole. The gushing waterfall washed away all the impurities on his body. Xiao Chen immediately felt refreshed and carefree. He could not help but shout. The aura in his body exploded out to its peak. The water droplets on his body instantly evaporated. Boom! Xiao Chen's body landed heavily on the surface of the water. A huge force spread out from under his feet. After a while, a 3-meter-tall wave rose up in the surroundings. Xiao Chen pushed off the water and returned to the shore. In the boundless horizon, the sun had set and night had fallen. A day had passed just like that. A small white figure dashed over from outside the illusion formation. When Xiao Chen saw it, he revealed a faint smile. No matter how lonely the path of cultivation was, at least there was Bai to accompany him. After a night of rest, Bai regained its strange temperament. It ran out of the spirit blood jade early in the morning. Xiao Chen was not worried about its safety. Bai cultivated the mysterious 9 heavenly revolution transformation. Its speed was so fast that even Xiao Chen could not catch up to it. It ran over to Xiao Chen and held a stalk of herb in its mouth. It placed it in Xiao Chen's hands like it was presenting a treasure. Xiao Chen did not find this strange. Bai was very sensitive to natural treasures with spirituality. Every time it went out, it would gain something. Xiao Chen held the herb in his hands and observed it carefully. His eyes lit up and he said joyfully, Rank 5 Spirit Herb, Fragrant Cloud Grass. This is a 30-year-old superior grade herb. It is worth 1,000 gold. Hearing Xiao Chen's joyful words, Bai revealed a human-like smile. It was very satisfied. Chapter 98. The sun rose and set, the clouds rose and scattered. The days in the valley passed very quickly. In the blink of an eye, Xiao Chen had cultivated for a week in front of the waterfall. During this time, Xiao Chen continuously cultivated the blue dragon cloud soaring art. When the river was turbulent, he would go ashore to practice the rushing thunder saber technique. At dusk, he would cultivate the purple thunder divine incantation, continuously consolidating his cultivation realm and tempering his physical body. Hua! On this day, Xiao Chen leaped out of the cave behind the waterfall and landed heavily on the water surface. He kicked up a huge wave, water droplets shot out in all directions and the waves surged up to the sky. With a gentle push, Xiao Chen returned to the riverside. After a week of cultivation, the essence in his body had become even denser and purer. It was now comparable to a superior grade martial master. After resting for a while, Xiao Chen looked suspiciously in the direction of the illusion formation's exit. Normally, Bai would be back by now. Why is it not back yet? Bai was the darling of the forest, it had a special affinity with the forest. After coming to Savage Forest, Xiao Chen could not control it anymore, it would run out on its own every time. Bai, who cultivated the mysterious 9 heavenly revolution transformation, did not have any natural enemies in the periphery of Savage Forest. However, Xiao Chen was worried about it. If it ran into the inner regions of Savage Forest, it would be problematic. Just as Xiao Chen was hesitating whether to go out and look for Bai, a white figure appeared in his vision. Before Xiao Chen could reveal a smile, he discovered that there was something wrong with Bai's body. Its speed was much slower than usual. When it got closer, Xiao Chen discovered that its snow-white body was covered in red wounds. The red blood was very eye-catching on its snow-white fur. When Bai looked at Xiao Chen, it seemed to be afraid. It did not dare to get close, like a child who had done something wrong. Xiao Chen had a sullen expression as he carried Bai over. After carefully inspecting the wounds, he heaved a sigh of relief. They were all superficial wounds. Then, he took out a blood-replenishing pill, crushed it, and slowly applied it on Bai's wound. Then, he went to the river and washed the blood off Bai's body. Let's see if you still dare to run outside. Now you know how powerful I am. Xiao Chen placed Bai on a soft patch of grass and lectured him. The effect of the blood-replenishing pill was very good. After it had completely seeped into Bai's body, the wound immediately solidified and a scar slowly formed. Seeing that Xiao Chen was lecturing it, it stood up with some grievance. It gestured with its hands and feet while squeaking. Although Bai could not speak the human language, it had signed a blood contract with Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen roughly understood what it meant. It saw a stalk of spirit herb in the periphery of Savage Forest and wanted to pick it like usual. Who knew that this stalk of spirit herb had a 4-legged snake? Its speed was extremely fast. Before Bai could get close, it was scratched by the claws of the 4-legged snake. It was so frightened that it quickly ran back. Xiao Chen's heart sank. Based on Bai's description, this 4-legged snake should be a rank 4 spirit beast, black-legged snake. However, how could there be a rank 4 spirit beast in the periphery of Savage Forest? A rank 4 spirit beast was equivalent to a martial grand master. In the periphery of Savage Forest, rank 3 spirit beasts were rather rare. For a rank 4 spirit beast to appear guarding a stock of natural treasure, it could only mean that the natural treasure was of a very high rank. Xiao Chen looked at Bai and asked seriously, "Are you sure it is in the periphery of Savage Forest?" Bai nodded its head heavily. Xiao Chen started thinking. This natural treasure was clearly not ordinary. It could be like the red nascent fruit in the periphery of Seven-Horn Mountain. That place was the place with the densest spiritual energy in the periphery of Savage Forest. If it was under normal circumstances, Xiao Chen would have made up his mind long ago. A rank 4 spirit beast was only equivalent to a martial grand master. However, a spirit beast was, after all, a spirit beast. Its thinking was not as agile as a human's, and it could not use martial techniques and spirit weapons like a human could. After paying a certain price, Xiao Chen was confident that he could deal with this black-legged snake. However, the problem now was that he did not know whether the Jiang clan's people had returned or not. If they were still around and the Jiang clan's people discovered his whereabouts, it would be difficult for him to escape. Riches are sought amidst danger. The path of cultivation is filled with boundless danger. It all boils down to the word risk. Xiao Chen made up his mind and no longer hesitated. When Bai's injuries were more or less healed, he said, "Bai, lead the way. I will help you take revenge." Bai cheered and led Xiao Chen out of the illusion formation. The scene in front of Xiao Chen suddenly changed. A forest of tall trees and a dark forest appeared in Xiao Chen's vision once again. Bai's speed was extremely fast. If Xiao Chen did not execute the blue dragon cloud soaring art, he would not be able to catch up to it. One man and one beast moved quickly. Xiao Chen ignored all the spirit beasts they met along the way, leaving them all behind. When they arrived in front of a small valley, Bai stopped. Xiao Chen extended his spiritual sense into the valley. At the end of the valley, in an extremely hidden crevice, Xiao Chen saw a 7-colored flower petal. 7-leaf flower. Xiao Chen exclaimed in astonishment. A 7-leaf flower actually grew in this place. This was too shocking. The 7-leaf flower was a true treasure. It had a total of 7 different colored petals. Every 10 years, one petal would grow out. After all 7 petals grew out, it would come into contact with the neon-like 7-leaf fruit in another 20 years. Xiao Chen extended his spiritual sense into the 7-leaf flower and observed it carefully. He was somewhat disappointed to discover that the fruit within the petals had already been plucked. There were only 7 different colored petals left. However, even if the 7-leaf fruit had been plucked, the remaining 7 petals would still be useful to cultivators. Every petal could temper a cultivator's body once again. After the tempering of the 7-leaf flower, a cultivator's physical body would undergo a qualitative change. Xiao Chen withdrew his spiritual sense and asked Bai, "When you came here earlier, was the fruit still there?" Bai chattered non-stop. When Xiao Chen heard it, he could not help but feel it was strange. He said, "When Bai came here earlier, it was still there. Why is it gone now?" "That's right, when I scanned the valley with my spiritual sense earlier, I did not see the black-legged snake. It must have plucked the fruit." Xiao Chen's heart stirred. He quickly released his spiritual sense again, carefully searching every corner of the valley. Finally, on a slope in the valley, Xiao Chen discovered traces of the black-legged snake. It was hiding behind a huge rock. That sparkling and translucent 7-leaf fruit was right in front of the black-legged snake. The black-legged snake's eyes were closed. The 7-leaf fruit emitted a golden spiritual energy that was visible to the naked eye. The black-legged snake's body was 2 meters long. It had 4 legs and its body was as big as a bowl. The snake's body was covered in dark gold scales. It opened its mouth wide and sucked in all the golden spiritual energy. Its face revealed an extremely joyful expression. Xiao Chen was secretly astonished. This black-legged snake is not stupid. It knows that the 7-leaf fruit contains an astonishing amount of spiritual energy. It cannot just swallow it in one bite. Xiao Chen circulated the gravity spell and gently floated to the cliff where the 7-leaf flower was located. A faint fragrance came from the 7-leaf flower. Xiao Chen revealed a faint smile on his face. He grabbed the root and exerted some strength. He carefully plucked it and placed it in his universe ring. Whoo! Landing gently on the ground, Xiao Chen extended his spiritual sense out again. The black-legged snake was intoxicated by the spiritual energy of the 7-leaf fruit and did not notice the situation here. The corner of Xiao Chen's mouth curled up into a cold smile. He locked his spiritual sense on the black-legged snake and shouted. Lightning evasion. A clap of thunder resounded in the valley. Lightning streaked across the sky. Xiaoqian suddenly appeared beside the black-legged snake. The lunar shadow saber lit up with a resplendent electric glow. He did not hesitate to execute the drawing the saber that he had practiced thousands of times. Kang! Xiaoqian raised his hand and chopped down. The lunar shadow saber ruthlessly chopped at the spine of the black-legged snake. The lunar shadow saber left a 2-chi deep wound on the dark golden scales. The black blood of the black-legged snake gushed out like a fountain. Unexpectedly, it did not chop the black-legged snake in half. Xiaoqian was astonished. He originally thought that he could take advantage of the moment when the black-legged snake was distracted to finish it off. He did not expect that he would only leave a wound on its body. Under the intense pain, the black-legged snake opened its mouth at an exaggerated angle. It let out a painful hiss and its huge tail ferociously stabbed at Xiaoqian. The pitch-black snake tail was as tough as an awl. It twisted at an inconceivable angle as it fell from the sky. A pitch-black liquid flickered at the end of the snake tail. It was obviously a highly toxic substance. Xiaoqian was overwhelmed with shock and quickly retreated backward. The awl-like snake tail stabbed into the place where Xiaoqian was originally standing. The huge force created a hole about half a meter wide in the ground. Bang! After the snake tail landed on the ground, it swung horizontally and quickly flew towards Xiaoqian in the air. Xiaoqian was astonished. He did not expect the snake tail to swing so quickly. His body paused in the air before he ferociously used his chi to rise by 3 meters, dodging the black-legged snake's huge tail. Before Xiaoqian could heave a sigh of relief, he saw the snake tail twirl in the air. Its length suddenly doubled as it swept towards Xiaoqian. Boom! Not only did the snake tail's length double, the speed at which it swung horizontally also increased significantly. Xiaoqian had never seen such a strange thing before. He was caught off guard and was ruthlessly swept by it. The snake tail carried a huge force and it flung Xiaoqian down from the air. Xiaoqian's body had been tempered countless times. At this moment, his muscles were as tough as iron. After being swept by the snake tail, Xiaoqian only felt the qi in his body churn for a while. However, he did not suffer any serious injuries. If it were a regular martial master, their internal organs would have ruptured and they would have died. Xiaoqian's body landed on the slope and quickly rolled down. The black-legged snake ran wildly on all fours. Its 2-meter-long body was extremely fast as it flew towards Xiaoqian. Xiaoqian shouted lightly and stopped his body from sliding down. His right leg bounced off the ground and he flew backwards before landing firmly on the ground. When the black-legged snake saw that Xiaoqian's speed was not slower than its own, it instantly landed on an empty space in the valley. It opened its huge mouth and spat out a black venom at Xiaoqian. Xiaoqian flicked his finger and a strand of purple flame condensed on his fingertip. It spun around and shot towards the venom. Pu-ci. The venom was instantly struck. There was a chi-chi sound as the venom dispersed. Thick black smoke spread out in all directions. The speed at which the black smoke spread was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, it covered half of the valley. Chapter 99. Xiaoqian did not panic. He took out a black veil from the universe ring and wore it, covering his mouth and nose. This veil was made from the hide of a spirit beast. It could isolate most of the gases. The black veil was not a rare treasure. Most of the cultivators who entered Savage Forest would purchase one. Xiaoqian was prepared. When he entered Savage Forest for the first time, he had already prepared one. Thick smoke pervaded the air and the surroundings were covered in fog. Visibility was greatly hindered. Xiaoqian spread out his spiritual sense and immediately caught sight of the black-legged snake. When the black-legged snake saw that Xiaoqian was still in the poisonous smoke, it thought that his vision was limited. It ran to Xiaoqian in a carefree manner and used its huge tail to stab at Xiaoqian. Xiaoqian quickly retreated and the huge tail quickly lengthened in the air, chasing after Xiaoqian. Xiao Chen locked his spiritual sense on the huge tail of the black-legged snake. He discovered that after its tail lengthened, the originally densely packed Jin Lin became thinner. Good chance. Xiao Chen thought to himself. This black-legged snake must have thought that he could not see it in the thick smoke. That was why it dared to be so bold and attack him without fear. Kill! Xiao Chen shouted and quickly executed the blue dragon cloud soaring art. He rose from the ground and instantly rose to a height of 10 meters. A dragon image appeared behind him and he executed the simplified version of the descending divine dragon chop. The black-legged snake felt a dangerous aura and quickly retracted its huge tail. However, the speed of the descending divine dragon chop was extremely fast. It had only retracted its huge tail halfway when the lunar shadow saber in Xiao Chen's hand ruthlessly chopped at an area where the scales were sparse. The black-legged snake's tail was instantly chopped in half. Pu-ci. Blood sprayed out from the place where the tail was severed. This fellow's blood was also highly toxic. Even a drop of it would be fatal. Xiao Chen hurriedly retreated. Previously, Xiao Chen's sneak attack had struck the black-legged snake's weak spot. As the saying goes, hit the snake where it hurts. Although Xiao Chen's full-strength strike did not split it into two halves, it had still severely injured it. At this moment, Xiao Chen had chopped off the weapon it relied on, its tail. Adding injuries on top of injuries, it had become a toothless tiger. It was no longer a life-threatening threat to Xiao Chen. The black-legged serpent also understood this logic. It let out a pained hiss and fiercely bounced off the ground with its 4 legs. It opened its huge mouth and pounced towards Xiao Chen without the slightest hesitation. It was actually a suicidal move. Xiao Chen's heart tightened. The black-legged serpent's final attack was extremely fast. There was no way to dodge it. If he could not kill it in one strike, the black-legged serpent's counterattack would definitely severely injure him. In the time it took for a spark to fly off a flint, Xiao Chen's mind became clear. He recalled the state he was in when he practiced his saber. He slowly said in his heart, "Don't be nervous. Just treat me as a wooden stick for practicing your saber." Drawing the saber. The lunar shadow saber flickered with electricity. When the black-legged serpent was less than half a meter away from Xiao Chen suddenly made his move. A saber light flashed and the black-legged serpent was chopped into 2 halves from head to toe. Xiao Chen rolled to the side, avoiding the poisonous blood falling from the air. With a bang, the 2 halves of the black-legged serpent fell to the ground. The poisonous fog in the valley slowly dissipated. Xiao Chen removed his mask and walked towards the huge rock where the black-legged serpent had been. He carefully placed the 7-leaf fruit into his universe ring. Looking at the corpse of the black-legged serpent on the ground, Xiao Chen did not waste it. The entire body of the black-legged serpent was a treasure. The black Jin Lin scales on the serpent's body were indestructible. They were excellent materials for making battle armor. The 4 legs were excellent for brewing medicinal wine and refining medicinal pills. Xiao Chen took out a sharp knife and cut them off. Wang! Wang! Xiao Chen tidied up everything. Just as he was about to get up, there was a buzzing sound in his head. He felt dizzy and his limbs went numb. Damn it, the poisonous fog must have entered my body through my pores. I have to find a place to force the poison out. Otherwise, I will be in big trouble. Shwa! Shwa! The sound of footsteps came from outside the valley. Xiao Chen extended his spiritual sense out and his heart tightened. It was the Jiang clan's people. They had not left yet. It must be the noise from the battle earlier that alarmed them. It really is that brat. He actually dares to appear. Because the first elder could not find him, he was scolded by the clan head. As a result, we were scolded by the first elder as well. This time, we have to catch him. Send the signal. Quickly inform the first elder and the others. These words entered Xiao Chen's ears. He did his best to open his eyes, maintaining a trace of clarity in his mind. He looked in the direction of the valley. There were 10 cultivators, all of them martial masters. Kill! One of them shouted loudly. He held a thick saber in his hand and rushed at Xiao Chen. He saw that Xiao Chen was only a superior grade martial disciple. Furthermore, he felt that something was wrong. He wanted to be the first to make a move. Drawing the saber, Xiao Chen executed the blue dragon cloud soaring art to its limits. His figure turned into a beam of light in the air. Together with the rushing thunder saber technique, he executed the lunar shadow saber. There was a flash of saber light. The Jiang clan cultivator who made the first move was instantly struck. Xiao Chen looked at the remaining 9 martial masters. Instead of retreating, he advanced. He held the lunar shadow saber and rushed forward. Bang! After he had taken a few steps, the cultivator that had been struck by his saber suddenly split into 2 halves with a loud bang, blood spraying everywhere. The remaining 9 martial masters turned pale with fright. They did not expect Xiao Chen, a superior grade martial disciple, to be able to kill a martial master with one saber strike. This was simply inconceivable. They felt a chill in their hearts. What are you afraid of? No matter how strong he is just a superior grade martial disciple. There are still 9 of us. What is there to be afraid of? Furthermore, the first elder is about to arrive. We just need to delay him for a while, a Jiang clan cultivator said to the others. Someone at the side agreed, that's right, there is no need to be afraid of him. He is just a superior grade martial disciple. No matter how strong he is still a realm above us. Xiao Chen did not say anything. The situation was dire. He did not dare delay. He expended the essence in his body without any regard for his life. The 10 white clouds beside the azure dragon martial spirit in Xiao Chen's dantian moved quickly. A dense and pure essence flowed through his entire body. Drawing the saber. There was a flash of saber light. Xiao Chen made his move again. Under the execution of the blue dragon cloud soaring art, his figure became ethereal. The cultivator who spoke first was instantly chopped in half. Arclight chop. Rushing heaven chop. Rushing thunder chop. Rushing thunder second chain chop. Within the valley, thunder roared and the wind howled. Saber lights flashed wantonly. Xiao Chen executed the rushing thunder saber technique with all his might. Although Xiao Chen's cultivation was only at the superior grade martial disciple realm, he had once reached the martial master realm. After these few days of cultivation, the purity and strength of the essence in his body were much stronger than these Jiang clan martial masters. Furthermore, with the heaven-ranked movement technique of the blue dragon cloud soaring art and the rushing thunder saber technique, which was comparable to an earth-ranked martial technique, these people were not a match for Xiao Chen. Every time the saber light flickered, it would claim a life. After the 5 moves of the rushing thunder saber technique were executed, there were only 4 Jiang clan cultivators left in the valley. Those 4 cultivators could only see Xiao Chen's figure. They could not see how Xiao Chen made his move. They only saw him killing 6 people in an instant. Seeing Xiao Chen like a killing god, they wanted to retreat and ran out of the valley. Seeing the 4 fleeing, Xiao Chen did not give chase. Instead, he headed out of the valley. He had to find a safe place to force the poison out of his body. Xiao Chen circulated his essence at full force, temporarily suppressing the poison in Xiao Chen's body. However, this was an extremely dangerous situation. If he could not force the poison out before it counterattacked, it would cause fatal damage to his body. Just as Xiao Chen walked out of the valley, he felt a strong aura chasing after him. He became serious. The Jiang clan experts had arrived. He quickened his pace. Brat, where are you running to? Behind him, the first elder of the Jiang clan, Jiang Yunzi, had an ashen complexion. He shouted loudly and leaped up from the ground. While he was in the air, he stepped on the trunk of a large tree. With a ferocious push, he leaped towards Xiao Chen. His figure increased in speed in the air, and he caught up to Xiao Chen in an instant. He sent a palm strike at Xiao Chen's back. Hearing the palm wind behind him, Xiao Chen turned around and exchanged a palm strike with Jiang Yunze. He vomited a mouthful of blood, but he used Jiang Yunze's palm strike to retreat at an even more horrifying speed. Jiang Yunze could not help but feel angry. This brat actually used the force of his palm strike to increase the distance between them. Thinking about how he was scolded by Jiang Mingxuan in the Jiang residence yesterday, Jiang Yunze roared angrily and gave chase again. Feeling Jiang Yunze chasing after him again, Xiao Chen complained in his heart. Normally, he would have been able to shake off this person long ago. However, at this moment, he had to use his essence to suppress the poison in his body. He was unable to fully execute the blue dragon cloud soaring art, so his speed was much slower. I have to think of a way, Xiao Chen thought anxiously. When he saw Jiang Yunze getting closer, he suddenly stopped and slowly executed the gravity spell. When executing the gravity spell, its speed was rather slow. However, as long as he executed it, he would be able to fly into the sky and shake off the people below him. As for whether he would become a target for others after he flew into the sky, it was not within Xiao Chen's consideration for now. When Jiang Yunze saw Xiao Chen suddenly stop, he felt joy in his heart. He immediately increased his pace and rushed towards Xiao Chen. He held the saber on his back in his hand. This time, he would not give Xiao Chen any chance to borrow strength, he would kill him in one strike. Who? There was a flash of saber light. Just as the saber was about to strike Xiao Chen's body suddenly rose from the ground. After executing the gravity spell, he flew higher and higher. In the blink of an eye, he was more than 200 meters above the ground. It is actually a flying martial technique. Where did this person come from? A Jiang clan cultivator who rushed over said in astonishment when he saw Xiao Chen's figure in the sky. Jiang Yunze looked coldly at Xiao Chen, who was in the sky. He said in a deep voice, no matter where he came from, he snatched the Jiang clan's map and even injured the first young master. He has to pay the price. Hand me the bow. A cultivator quickly took out a long bow that flickered with a cold light and handed it to Jiang Yunze. The bow flickered with a faint radiance, and a faint spiritual energy was emitted. This bow was actually a spirit weapon. Jiang Yunze took out an arrow and drew the bowstring, forming a full moon shape. The tip of the arrow flashed with a cold light as he pointed it at Xiao Chen. So. The arrow buzzed and left the bowstring. It was extremely fast, flying towards Xiao Chen. Hearing the sound of the arrow tearing through the air, Xiao Chen let out a long sigh in his heart. Even at his peak, he did not dare say that he would be able to dodge this arrow. Xiao Chen did his best to dodge to the side, but this arrow still pierced through his right chest. If it were not for his spiritual sense detecting Jiang Yunze's movements and dodging, this arrow would have pierced through his heart. A bloody hole the size of a finger appeared on the right side of his chest. Blood flowed out continuously, and a heart-wrenching pain could be felt. Xiao Chen quickly took out a blood-replenishing pill and placed it in his mouth. Xiao Chen did his best to maintain the gravity spell as he continued to fly forward in a wobbly manner. The poison that had been suppressed for a long time was finally released. At this moment, the poison that he had been suppressing also became restless. His body staggered as though he would fall from the sky in the next moment. After searching for a week, I finally see you. Hua Yunfei stood on top of a tree in the distance. He looked very graceful, his long hair fluttered, and his clothes fluttered in the wind. When he saw Xiao Chen's figure, he revealed a faint, evil smile. He turned into a blood river and headed in the direction of Xiao Chen, rushing through the air. Chapter 100. The blood river was like a churning red cloud in the sky. A horrifying evil aura emanated from the blood river in all directions, rippling in the sky. When Xiao Chen felt the blood river behind him, he was startled. Hua Yunfei had not left yet. That means Duan Muqing and Chu Chaoyun are definitely still around. I have to hurry to the illusion formation. Pu Ci. The blood river turned into a whirlwind in the sky. Its speed suddenly doubled, and it caught up to Xiao Chen in an instant. After that, it turned into a human figure. Hua Yunfei sent a palm strike at Xiao Chen, smashing him down from the sky. Bang! Xiao Chen's body fell from the sky and landed on the ground with a loud thud. The qi and blood in his body churned continuously, and he vomited another mouthful of blood. His pale face became even more frightening. Hua Yunfei landed steadily from the sky and looked at Xiao Chen on the ground. He smiled disdainfully. I was wondering what kind of genius it was, to actually force Duanmuking to reveal his inherited martial spirit. It turns out that you are just trash. Xiao Chen stood up slowly and looked at Hua Yunfei. You are just born with an innate bloodline. If I had not only awakened my martial spirit at the age of 15, even if I were severely injured, I would still be able to fight with you. You still dare to be stubborn. Hua Yunfei snorted coldly and moved quickly. Everywhere he passed, he left behind a trail of blood. In the blink of an eye, he arrived before Xiao Chen. He raised his leg and kicked Xiao Chen away. Boom! Xiao Chen's body flew backwards, breaking 3 large trees before landing heavily on the ground. After he landed, he vomited 3 mouthfuls of blood. His pale face no longer had any color. Hua Yunfei walked over and was surprised to see that Xiao Chen's body was in perfect condition. He said, I did not expect your body to be so strong. You did not even break a single rib from my kick. However, no matter how strong your body is, a superior grade martial disciple is still trash. Take out the sketch, and I'll give you a quick death. Xiao Chen did not say anything. He slowly stood up and used his spiritual sense to seal the spirit blood jade, blocking Bai, who was trying to jump out. Xiao Chen held the lunar shadow saber in his hand and circulated his essence for the blue dragon returns to the sea. He looked coldly at Hua Yunfei. Hua Yunfei frowned slightly. Xiao Chen's gaze made him feel very uncomfortable. He snorted coldly and drew another line of blood on the ground. In the blink of an eye, he appeared in front of Xiao Chen and kicked Xiao Chen away. Bang! 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 Hua Yunfei used 50% of his strength in this kick. Xiao Chen's body flew back like a cannonball, breaking 5 trees in a row. Xiao Chen bent down and stabbed the lunar shadow saber into the ground, creating a long trench in the ground. Xiao Chen, who was holding the lunar shadow saber, did not fall to the ground this time. Black lines started to appear on his pale face. The poison that was suppressed in his body was finally starting to retaliate. Xiao Chen coughed out a few mouthfuls of black blood and laughed maniacally. Together with the dense black lines on his face, he looked extremely terrifying. Continue, did you not drink milk? With such little strength, you are not even comparable to a woman. Xiao Chen's mouth curled up into a cold smile as he mocked. Hua Yunfei's expression changed and his expression turned grave. An intense killing intent appeared in his eyes as he looked coldly at Xiao Chen. In his eyes, Xiao Chen was already a dead man. He pushed off the ground and leaped into the air. A scarlet afterimage appeared behind him as he sent a palm strike at Xiao Chen's head. Xiao Chen looked coldly at Hua Yunfei, who was rushing at him. He gently raised the lunar shadow saber in his hand and casually changed his stance. The tip of the saber pointed at Hua Yunfei. It was just a very casual stance, there did not seem to be any movement. It was no different from before. Xiao Chen still had the appearance of being severely injured and weak. However, Hua Yunfei's right eye twitched for no reason. He felt a sense of danger. It was like something in his heart had been hollowed out. Could it be that this brat still has a killing move? Hua Yunfei thought suspiciously. Never mind, even if he has a killing move, he will not have the chance to execute it. In another breath, I will be able to shatter his skull. Thinking of this, Hua Yunfei dispelled the uncomfortable feeling in his heart. He smiled coldly and continued to smash at Xiao Chen's skull. However, just at this moment, Xiao Chen suddenly shouted. His aura suddenly changed, and a boundless aura surged out from his body like it could topple mountains and overturn seas. Time seemed to freeze. Hua Yunfei's palm stopped in front of Xiao Chen's skull, unable to advance any further. After an instant, an irresistible force came from Xiao Chen's body. Hua Yunfei's body was blown away like a goose feather. The surrounding quiet forest was like a roaring wave. A boundless ocean appeared behind Xiao Chen. Huge waves surged and churned. Layers upon layers of waves surged continuously. All the trees within a 500-meter radius were uprooted and smashed into pieces by the roaring waves. In the middle of the ocean, a blue dragon slowly emerged. It let out a long roar that resounded in all directions. In the periphery of savage forest, all the spirit beasts felt a tremble deep in their hearts, coming from their bloodline. They prostrated themselves on the ground and trembled. When a dragon is trapped in the shallows, prawns will play with it. When a tiger falls to the plains, it will be bullied by dogs. When a tiger falls to the plains, there will be a day when there will be a dragon's water. When the blue dragon goes out to sea, I will make the rivers flow in reverse. The might of an ancient holy beast burst out. Under this supreme might, Hua Yunfei felt the essence in his body running amok, not listening to his commands. It was as if his limbs had lost their function and he could not move at all. That destructive force was once again grasped by Xiao Chen. The blue dragon circled around in the air before diving down towards Hua Yunfei. Seeing the blue dragon flying over, Hua Yunfei felt despair. It is actually a heaven-ranked martial technique. How is this possible? Am I going to die here? Impossible. I have a mutated martial spirit that appears only once every 1,000 years in the Hua clan. It is rarely seen since ancient times. In this era, I will definitely rise. How can an insignificant superior-grade martial disciple defeat me? Hua Yunfei screamed crazily in his heart. Suddenly, a figure walked out from the boundless blood river in his dantian. That person was dressed in scarlet clothes that merged with the blood river. It was as if he had come from the underworld. His body emitted a boundless evil aura. He raised his head and looked at the blue dragon in the sky. The corner of his mouth curled up into a sinister smile. Boom! That figure suddenly leaped out of the dantian and turned into a huge scarlet figure. It stood in the sky and raised its hand to block the blue dragon descending from the sky. Bang! A horrifying shockwave spread out in all directions. All the trees within 1,000 meters were chopped in half and turned into powder. All that was left in the surroundings were countless tree roots. The blue dragon roared angrily. It was another drawn-out dragon roar. The scarlet figure became more and more condensed. The ground under his feet cracked and Hua Yunfei fell down. Seeing that the blue dragon was unstoppable, the scarlet figure let out a long sigh. It turned into a scarlet viscous substance and wrapped around Hua Yunfei. Bang! Without any obstruction, the blue dragon crashed into Hua Yunfei's body. Countless rocks flew out from the hole in the ground. Hua Yunfei's body continued to fall. He did not know how long he had been falling. After a long time, there were continuous explosions in the hole before it slowly stopped. Chi! Chi! All the blood vessels in Xiao Chen's body ruptured. Countless amounts of black blood spurted out in all directions. His face revealed an expression of extreme pain as he knelt on the ground with a pu tong sound. His flesh and blood were drying up at a speed visible to the naked eye. It was just like when he first awakened his martial spirit. It was obvious that the blue dragon had exhausted too much of his martial spirit. Furthermore, he did not have any excess essence in his body. The blue dragon in the martial spirit continued to absorb the spiritual energy in his flesh and blood. After a long time, Xiao Chen's originally sturdy body was now just skin and bones. His eyes were sunken in and his skin was shriveled. However, the surprising thing was that when the blue dragon martial spirit absorbed his flesh and blood, it also absorbed all the toxins in his body. In the distant sky, an ice phoenix and a sword image descended rapidly. Duan and Chu Chaoyun stood firmly on the ground. The two of them looked at their surroundings. There were countless broken tree roots and deep ravines on the ground. They were astonished. Chu Chaoyun walked slowly to the huge hole and looked at Hua Yunfei lying at the bottom. A murderous intent flashed in his eyes. The sword on his back buzzed continuously. Duan said expressionlessly, "Do you want to kill him?" Chu Chaoyun smiled calmly and said indifferently, "If I had the opportunity, I would not have hesitated to make a move." Unfortunately, it was a blessing in disguise for him. He has awakened the origin of his mutated martial spirit. If I wanted to kill him, I'm afraid that the moment my killing intent appeared, it would immediately awaken him. After today, he will become even more terrifying. Duan walked over slowly. His eyes were filled with astonishment. The origin of an inherited martial spirit is already hard to awaken. A mutated inherited martial spirit is even harder to awaken. I'm afraid that no one in the younger generation of Dongming province will be a match for him in the future. Chu Chaoyun smiled faintly. He turned his gaze to Xiao Chen, who was lying on the ground like a dried corpse. He said, "In such a large Dongming province, there are definitely many hidden geniuses. Don't just focus on the three factions. Who knows, there might be someone in front of you who can be a match for him." Duan revealed a faint look of pity on her beautiful face. This person can be considered to have great fortuitous encounters. I wonder how he obtained a heaven-ranked martial technique. Unfortunately, he overestimated himself and executed it across realms. Furthermore, this is not the first time he executed a heaven-ranked martial technique. If he executed it again, he would probably die on the spot. Without a heaven-ranked martial technique, what can he use to compete with Hua Yunfei? In the end, he is just a superior-grade martial disciple. Hua Yunfei did not continue discussing this topic. He said, "How are you going to deal with the ancient remnant map on him? Are you going to include Hua Yunfei as well?" Just as Duan was about to reply, a resplendent scarlet light shot out from the spirit blood jade on Xiao Chen's chest. Bai finally broke through the barrier that Xiao Chen had set up. It looked at Xiao Chen, who was lying on the ground like a dried corpse, and let out a mournful cry. The pure gaze in its eyes suddenly turned scarlet. Boom! A huge six-tailed spirit fox appeared in front of the two of them. A monstrous aura was emitted from its body. The 6 huge tails on its back soared into the sky, and its fur stood on end. It looked very horrifying. Not good, this little fellow is going berserk. Let's leave quickly. The two of them were startled. They quickly used their own methods to escape into the sky. Bai opened its mouth, and the surrounding spiritual energy surged into its mouth. The mysterious 9 heavenly revolution transformation circulated continuously. Boundless essence was compressed into 9 streams, forming a huge ball of light. The ball of light spun continuously, it was resplendent and dazzling. A strong wind blew in the surroundings, and in an instant, leaves flew everywhere. Broken rocks flew everywhere, and dust flew everywhere. It was very majestic. Boom! The ball of light flashed in the air, moving in a lightning-like arc. The two fleeing people were instantly struck by it. They both vomited a mouthful of blood and fell heavily to the ground. Bai looked at Xiao Chen on the ground, and its scarlet eyes turned misty. It carried Xiao Chen on its back and quickly fled into the distance. Chapter 101. Within the illusion formation, in an empty space beside the Zhuang River, Xiao Chen lay on the ground like a dried corpse. It was unknown whether he was dead or alive. Bai's body had already returned to its normal state. After going berserk, it was extremely weak and had no energy. However, when it saw Xiao Chen's appearance, it did not immediately rest. Instead, it quickly ran out. 4 hours later, it ran back covered in blood. In its claws, it held a medicinal fruit that was glowing brightly. If Xiao Chen had not fainted, he would have recognized it. The medicinal fruit in Bai's hands was called red core pomelo. It was the most important ingredient for refining the peak-grade healing pill, the cloud-returning pill. The red core pomelo grew in the depths of savage forest. Wherever it went, there would definitely be strong spirit beasts guarding it. Bai dragged its weak body and ran to pick the medicinal herb. It was unknown how severely injured it was. Bai found the porcelain bowl that Xiaoqin usually drank from. It smashed the red core pomelo and turned it into a refreshing medicinal liquid. Bai held the bowl and fed the medicinal liquid into Xiaoqian's mouth. In the end, it left a bit on the arrow wound on Xiaoqian's chest. After doing all this, Bai's anxious mood relaxed slightly. Its exhausted body immediately turned into a beam of white light and flew into the spirit blood jade. The medicinal energy of the red core pomelo slowly entered Xiaoqian's body. To regular cultivators, consuming it directly was a taboo. This was because the medicinal energy contained in the original medicinal fruit was very tyrannical. If one was careless, their qi and blood would surge and their body would explode. A regular alchemist would refine this red core pomelo into 10 or even tens of essence-returning pills, spreading out the medicinal energy. Only then would it be suitable for cultivators with lower cultivations to consume. However, Xiaoqian's current situation was rather special. His body was like a building waiting to be rebuilt. The qi and blood in his body were extremely sparse. If there was another red core pomelo, he could consume it directly. Within Whitewater City, people saw the Jiang clan's first elder, Duan Muking, Hua Yunfei, and Chu Chaoyun walking out of Savage Forest in sorry states. This was especially true for Hua Yunfei. His face was pale and his qi and blood were weak. It was obvious that he had suffered serious internal injuries. Whitewater City was in an uproar. To think that Xiaoqin could cause so many people to return in defeat. Who exactly was he? In Dongming Province, the inheritors of the 3 great sacred lands were all injured by him. This was especially true for Hua Yunfei. Hua Yunfei was only 17 years old, and he had awakened a variant martial soul. Ever since he had started cultivating, he had never been defeated by someone of the same generation. In fact, even some of the older generation would be afraid of him. Wherever the river of blood passes, there will be no survivors. When the people of Dongming Province talked about Hua Yunfei, they would think of this sentence. There was even a vague title of him as the top expert of Dongming Province's younger generation. Many of the big shots of Dongming Province believed that he was the most likely person to become Emperor Wu's successor after the Thunder King in the past 1,000 years. However, no one expected that in this small Whitewater City, Hua Yunfei would actually be injured by a superior-grade martial disciple. If word of this got out, no one would dare believe it. Instantly, the rumors about Xiaoqin were brought up continuously. Some said he was the heir of a hidden clan, some said he was the last disciple of a sect, and there were even more ridiculous people who said he was a cultivator from the Great Jin dynasty. Whitewater City, Jiang Clan, Great Hall, Jiang Mingxuan smacked the table violently and scolded, Jiang Yunze, what kind of first elder are you? You are a peak martial grand master, yet you can't even deal with a superior grade martial disciple. Aren't you embarrassed? Jiang Yunze, who was below, said with some dissatisfaction, even the heirs of the 3 powers were injured by him. I managed to injure him with 1 arrow. When Jiang Mingxuan heard this, he was angered to the extreme. His face turned ashen as he scolded angrily, you think you are in the right? The map was nearly obtained by them. Do you want me to praise you? Jiang Yunze knew he said the wrong thing. He quickly lowered his head and said, Clan head, I understand. I will rush back now. If I do not capture that brat personally, I will not return. Jiang Mingxuan had a sinister expression on his face as he smiled coldly, if you really cannot capture him, you can kill him on the spot. If the map really ends up in the hands of the 3 powers, you can forget about your position as first elder. Jiang Yunze's back was drenched in cold sweat. After he got up and took his leave, he scolded Xiaoqin several times in his heart. If I catch you, I will make you suffer a fate worse than death. Not long after Jiang Yunze left, A Jiang clan disciple rushed in and said to Jiang Mingxuan, reporting to clan head, someone offered a map of the ancient ruins at the stronghold of the clan east of the city and took away 1,000 gold taels. When Jiang Mingxuan heard this, he felt joy in his heart. Could it be that another cultivator killed that brat? He quickly said, "Quick, hand it over for me to take a look." Before that Jiang family disciple could hand over the sketch in his hand to Jiang Mingxuan, another Jiang family disciple rushed into the hall and reported in a loud voice, reporting to family head. Someone has offered a sketch of the ruins at a stronghold in the west of the city and has taken away 1,000 taels of gold. Jiang Mingxuan felt suspicious in his heart. Why were there two maps? Could one of them be fake? Reporting to clan head, someone offered a map of the ancient ruins at the stronghold of the clan north of the city and took away 1,000 gold taels. Reporting to clan head, just as Jiang Mingxuan was feeling suspicious, a few more people rushed in and reported that they had received a map of the ancient ruins. Including the two people from before, they had received a total of 10 maps, spending 10,000 gold taels. 10,000 gold taels was not a small sum. The Jiang clan's annual income was only 1,000,000 gold taels. Anyone would feel heartache when they lost a tenth of their income. Jiang Mingxuan suppressed the anger in his heart and looked through the 10 maps in his hands. He discovered that they were all fake. Furthermore, these 10 maps were almost exactly the same. It was obvious that they were drawn by the same person. Jiang Mingxuan laughed coldly in his heart. It had already been more than 100 years since anyone dared to mess with the Jiang clan in Whitewater City. He was the one who posted this reward. Of course, he knew that there was a loophole that could be exploited. However, he did not expect that there would be someone who dared to exploit this loophole. In the past 100 years, the Jiang clan had been the strongest clan in Whitewater City. It was because of this confidence that he dared to post this reward. However, he did not expect that there would be someone who dared to exploit this loophole. He said coldly, "Within 3 days, find out who is behind this. I want to exterminate his entire clan." Do they really think that my Jiang clan is a pushover? A person at the side immediately left to carry out the order. At this moment, a cultivator at the side whispered, "Clan head, there seems to be 2 words hidden in this map." When Jiang Mingxuan heard this, his expression turned serious. He casually picked up a map and looked at it carefully. There was a faint gap between the lines of the mountains and rivers drawn in the map. It was indeed a Chinese character with a stroke and a stroke. After a long time, Jiang Mingxuan muttered to himself, "This seems to be an idiot." Bang! Jiang Mingxuan clenched his right fist tightly and fiercely punched the table on which the sketch was placed. With a loud bang, the wooden table was immediately smashed into countless pieces. The 10 people kneeling on the ground trembled in fear. They had never seen Jiang Mingxuan so angry before. Even when the first elder came in, Jiang Mingxuan's expression was not this scary. Jiang Mingxuan's old face was as red as a pig's liver. He said agitatedly, "A bunch of trash. Scram. If you receive such a map in the future, you will all scram from the Jiang clan." Jiang Mingxuan was filled with hatred. This person who used a fake map to exchange for the bounty did not care about the Jiang clan at all. He had a huge appetite, exchanging it for 10,000 taels of gold in one go. Furthermore, he wrote the word "idiot" on the map openly. It was clear that he did it on purpose. How disgusting was this person to do such an infuriating thing? It was fine if you exchanged a fake map for money, you could have made a fortune in silence. However, you even wrote "idiot" on it. If this was not a slap in the face, what was? He, Jiang Mingxuan, was actually acting like an idiot. He had read those 2 words out loud. This was unbearable. Jiang Mingxuan felt a nefarious fire in his heart that he could not release. The more he thought about it, the more sullen he felt. He roared angrily and punched and kicked the tables and chairs in the hall. He only felt better after he smashed everything he could see. However, when he thought about it, these things were worth a lot. Added together, they were worth at least 10,000 taels of gold. They were gone just like that. The nefarious fire in his heart could not help but reignite. In a luxurious room in Liushang Pavilion. Back when Liushang Pavilion was reduced to rubble, many people thought it would take at least 3 months for it to reopen. It was unknown what methods Kim Tae-ho used, but he miraculously rebuilt Liushang Pavilion within 3 days. Furthermore, it was bigger, taller, and more luxurious. Its business was even more prosperous. A manservant handed Jean Fatso banknotes worth 10,000 taels of gold to Jean Fatso. He said with a face full of worship, "Young master, it is as you expected." That group of people did not know what the real map looked like. They actually managed to exchange it for money. Jean Fatso laughed loudly and took the banknotes. The fat on his face trembled as he laughed loudly. No wonder he has such a foolish son. So his father is an idiot as well. I managed to recoup all the money I spent on rebuilding Liushang Pavilion. There is still more. Jean Fatso carefully put away the banknotes and said to the manservant, "Go and find someone to sell this map in Whitewater City. Just say that it was leaked from the Jiang residence. Every copy is worth 1,000 taels of silver. Those cultivators who think they are powerful will definitely go and buy it." The manservant said with some hesitation, "Are we going to sell it without any changes? That is not appropriate. Are we not going to change the words on it?" Fatso muttered to himself for a while before saying, "It is indeed not appropriate. If we were to sell it like this without any changes, it would not show off the genius of this fat lord. How about this?" Fatso's eyes lit up and he smiled. "Add the word big in front of idiot. Remember to make it more poetic. I don't need to teach you what poetry is, right?" The manservant nearly vomited blood. "You might as well not change it at all. It is because you wrote idiot that I asked you to change it. You actually added the word big. If this is not infuriating, then what is?" Finally, the manservant could not take it anymore. He asked, "Young master, didn't you always say that when doing business, you should be honest with the old and the young? Isn't this a little too much?" Fatty Jean laughed and scolded. He used the golden folding fan in his hand to hit the manservant fiercely and said, "Deceiving both the young and the old is a normal person. Even a fool would buy a normal person." Letting out a heavy sigh, Fatty Jean opened the golden folding fan in his hand with a swoosh and said regretfully, "Intelligence, this thing is too high. It really is a kind of melancholy. It seems like no one in this world can understand me, so lonely." Before Fatso could finish speaking, the manservant quickly ran out. He felt his insides churning. If he stayed any longer, he might vomit out the food he ate for lunch. Chapter 102. Within the illusion formation, beside the Zhuang River, Shaoqin was still lying motionless on the riverbank. 3 days had passed, and his shriveled skin had filled up a little. However, he still looked as skinny as a log, as though he was malnourished. The poison had gathered on his skin, causing his fair skin to turn dark. Another 3 days passed. Dark clouds covered the sky, making it gloomy. In the blink of an eye, bean-sized droplets of rain fell from the sky, hitting Xiao Chen's face with a pitter-patter. The torrential rain poured down, lightning flashed, and thunder roared. On the Zhuang River, the water level rose rapidly. The turbulent river water became even more turbulent as it flowed away. Chi-chi. The raindrops fell on Xiao Chen's tightly shut eyes. His eyelids could not help but twitch. After a long time, he opened his tightly shut eyes to a slit. The raindrops seeped through the slit and entered his eyes mercilessly. It was misty, and the scene in the sky was blurry. Amidst the misty water, Shaoqin seemed to be able to see his parents from his previous life. Because of his departure, his mother wept uncontrollably every day, and his father sighed all day long. The hair on his temples had turned white. "Dad, Mom," Shaoqin muttered softly. It was unknown whether it was rainwater or tears that flowed out from the corners of his eyes. He had never felt as lonely as he did now. Despite the vastness of the world, there was no place for him to stay. In the face of this torrential rain, there was not even a straw hut to shelter him from the rain. He stretched out his right hand with great difficulty, trying to grasp the vague yet familiar figures of his parents. The bean-sized raindrops continuously struck Xiao Chen's right hand, mercilessly extinguishing his fantasies. The figures of his parents in the sky slowly disappeared. Familiar figures appeared one after another in Mo City. Xiao Yulan watched him leave in Mo City, his heartbroken appearance. Yi Lan, Xiao Ling and the other companions of the trial of Gloomy Forest, kneeling in front of Xiao Xiong for his sake. Feng Feishue, dressed in men's clothing, held a folding fan in her hand, and gracefully arrived at dawn. The various scenes of the past appeared before his eyes. Mo City, I have been gone for so long, do you still remember me? Cousin Yulan, did you go to the Heavenly Qin School with Xiao Jian? Xiao Jian, will your hatred for me lessen because of my departure? Feng Feishue, you first gave me the Blue Dragon Medicine Cauldron, then you gave me the Blue Dragon Cloud Soaring Art. What exactly is your identity? Xiao Xiong, why are you chasing me out of the Xiao clan just because I possess the Blue Dragon martial spirit? Why are you so heartless towards me? The blurry scene in the sky disappeared completely, leaving only a misty mist. The torrential rain washed away Xiao Chen's memories over and over again. When all the memories disappeared, Xiao Chen's heart became clear again, and the mist in his eyes disappeared. He looked at the pouring rain, and his mind became pensive. Xiao Chen struggled for a moment and got up from the ground. He supported himself with his right hand and slowly stood up. His body staggered a little. Because he had been lying on the ground for a long time, his blood circulation was not good. His head was dizzy and he almost fell down again. After a while, all the blood in his body flowed smoothly. Xiao Chen slowly walked towards the Zhuang River, drenched in the torrential rain. A blurry image appeared in the water, revealing Xiao Chen's skinny body and dark skin. Xiao Chen smiled bitterly and muttered, a heaven-ranked martial technique is indeed not something that I can execute now. If I were to execute it again, I would probably die a horrible death. Suddenly, he remembered the first time he executed the Blue Dragon martial technique. He was saved by Xiao Yulan, and she took good care of him, as well as the table of delicious food. Now that the two of them were far apart, he did not know when they would meet again. He could not help but feel melancholy in his heart. Recollecting his thoughts, Xiao Chen found a flat rock. He hesitated for a while before sitting cross-legged on it. He took out the 7-leaf fruit from the universe ring, and a refreshing medicinal fragrance instantly spread out. A seemingly solid golden aura surrounded it, and even the rain was unable to penetrate it. Without any hesitation, Xiao Chen swallowed this natural treasure that even the black-legged snake did not dare to swallow. Xiao Chen's qi and blood were extremely weak now. Even if he consumed a red heart pomelo, it would not be enough. He needed to replenish his qi and blood. He did not have to worry about his qi and blood being too vigorous, causing his body to explode. The 7-leaf fruit melted in his mouth, turning into a refreshing medicinal liquid. It flowed through the meridians in Xiao Chen's body, circulating throughout his entire body. After one cycle, a horrifying essence energy surged out from every part of Xiao Chen's body. An incomparably vigorous qi and blood surged continuously in his body, flowing along the meridians and acupoints, heading straight for the Tianding acupoint in Xiao Chen's brain. Xiao Chen's body gave off a faint golden glow. When the pea-sized raindrops landed on it, they immediately evaporated into a mist. In an instant, the stone platform was covered in a mist. Within the mist, there was a figure emitting a golden glow. In the heavy rain, he looked extremely divine. The 7-leaf flower bloomed once every 20 years. All 7 petals needed 140 years to bloom. After another 20 years, it would bear a 7-leaf fruit. The birth of a 7-leaf fruit required a total of 160 years. During these 160 years, the 7-leaf fruit would continuously absorb the purest spiritual energy in the world. By the time it bloomed and bore fruit, the spiritual energy it contained would have reached an unimaginable level. This was the purest and densest spiritual energy. It could directly raise a cultivator's cultivation realm by 1 grade. Although Xiaoqin had anticipated the strength of the 7-leaf fruit, he had still underestimated the spiritual energy contained in the 7-leaf fruit. Faintly, he could not grasp it. Xiaoqin quickly circulated the purple thunder divine incantation and slowly refined this vigorous medicinal energy. A surging purple mist continuously rose from the top of his head. The bones and flesh on Xiaoqian's skin and bones grew at a visible rate. His shriveled skin slowly filled up. Xiaoqian's dark cheeks looked like they were carved by a knife. They gave off an oppressive feeling of a treasured sword being unsheathed, revealing its sharpness. After the purple thunder divine incantation circulated 3 minor cycles, Xiaoqin finally managed to control the medicinal energy. He continued to circulate the purple thunder divine incantation, preparing to make use of this opportunity to raise his cultivation realm during this torrential rain. Dark clouds covered the sky, churning and churning. Thunder rumbled continuously in the clouds. The merciless torrential rain and strong winds blew increasingly louder. There was the sound of wind, rain, thunder, the rushing river, and a waterfall in the surroundings. Even further away, there were the chirping of insects and the low cries of spirit beasts. When the sounds entered his ears, Xiaoqian's mind became clear. He entered a state where he forgot himself, drifting between reality and illusion, comprehending everything in the world. The purple thunder divine incantation circulated a great cycle. The surging medicinal energy contained in the 7-leaf fruit merged with the spiritual energy absorbed by the purple thunder divine incantation and flowed into his dantian. Bang! There were no obstructions at the location of the martial spirit in his dantian. The 10 white clouds immediately exploded and turned into primal chaos. The clouds scattered and a pool of clear water appeared in the primal chaos of his dantian. This pool of water was at least twice as large as it was when Xiaoqin advanced in the past. When Xiaoqin felt this energy, he felt a chill run down his spine. Xiaoqin was incomparably joyful. He had actually advanced to peak medial grade martial master. He was only a step away from becoming a superior grade martial master. Xiaoqin had reached the point where he could advance again long ago. He had been suppressing this energy to strengthen his foundation. He did not expect that this time, he would be able to use the 7-leaf fruit to advance to peak medial grade martial master. Boom! Suddenly, there was an incomparably intense explosion of thunder in the sky. Due to the influence of the thunder, there were also countless explosions of thunder in Xiaoqian's body, clanging together. Every single one of the 700-odd acupoints in Xiaoqian's body crackled with thunder, resonating with the explosion of thunder in the sky. For a moment, it was unknown if the thunder in the sky was guiding the thunder in Xiaoqian's body or if Xiaoqian was guiding the thunder in the sky to roar for him. Every time the thunder in his acupoints crackled, Xiaoqian would feel the energy contained in his body increase. This thunder was actually tempering his body. Suddenly, Xiaoqian thought of a record in the compendium of cultivation. After the purple thunder divine incantation was cultivated to the 3rd layer, every time it advanced, it could cause a mysterious phenomenon, bringing great opportunities to the cultivator. According to the legends, after cultivating to the 7th layer, one would have to undergo a lightning tribulation. From the looks of it today, this legend should be true. When the thunder stopped, the purple thunder divine incantation in Xiaoqian's body suddenly changed. The circulation speed actually became faster. At this moment, the purple thunder divine incantation advanced. The torrential rain gradually stopped and the dark clouds scattered. Sunlight reappeared and the forest regained its vitality. The cries of birds and beasts could be heard continuously. Xiaoqian suddenly opened his eyes. The purple thunder true fire in his body suddenly surged out from his pores. Finally, it gathered together and turned into a dazzling purple flame, floating in front of him. After the purple thunder divine incantation advanced to the 3rd layer, the purple thunder true fire also underwent a qualitative change. It finally became an origin flame. In the future, it would no longer be a flame without a root. With a thought from Xiao Chen, the origin flame of the purple thunder true fire turned into a beam of purple light and entered his right eye. Instantly, a boundless sea of fire appeared in his right eye. It was like the entire universe was covered in flames. Finally, the boundless universe started to converge. The purple flame turned into a purple light and disappeared into Xiao Chen's right eye. His right eye regained its calm. After jumping off the stone platform, Xiao Chen felt his entire body filled with boundless energy. Every move he made contained a great might. Stepping on the muddy ground, Xiao Chen arrived at the bank of the Zhuang River. He waved his hand and a rhombus-shaped purple flame appeared in his right eye. It gave off an incomparably demonic glow. A surging flame appeared in Xiao Chen's hand and landed on the calm Zhuang River. Qi! 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 The horrifying purple flame burned on the surface of the river, giving off a zzz sound. After a long time, the purple flame disappeared. The water level of the Zhuang River had actually dropped by a finger's width. Chapter 103. Seeing the might of the purple thunder true fire, Xiao Chen revealed an astonished expression. He did not expect the purple thunder true fire's origin flame to be so strong. Xiao Chen took out another wooden staff and placed it on the ground. He held the lunar shadow saber in his hand and raised his spirit, qi, and spirit to the peak. His mind entered an empty state. There is only me in the world, only the saber. Drawing the saber, chop. Shua! 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 Xiao Chen chopped out 9 times, and the wooden staff broke into 9 pieces. However, this feather-light wooden staff still did not move at all, it did not show any signs of moving. Xiao Chen sheathed his saber and revealed a satisfied smile. This drawing the saber was finally not far from great perfection. Xiao Chen took out the 7 petals of the 7-leaf flower from the universe ring and thought for a while. Then, he returned to the flat rock and sat down cross-legged. Xiao Chen plucked a red petal and slowly placed it in his mouth. The moment the petal entered his mouth, it instantly seeped into Xiao Chen's flesh. Following that, he felt a heart-wrenching pain. There was not a single part of his body that did not hurt, it was like being pricked by needles. Xiao Chen clenched his teeth and endured. This was the 7-leaf flower cleansing his bones, skin, and flesh, he had to experience this pain. Xiao Chen felt like his skin was peeling off. Even the slightest movement of the grass or a gentle breeze would cause intense pain. Xiao Chen did not dare to open his mouth. He was afraid that if he opened his mouth, he would not be able to resist biting off his tongue. In an instant, his face was covered in sweat, he was like a person made of water. This heart-wrenching pain lasted for 2 hours before it stopped. The instant the pain disappeared, all the hair on Xiao Chen's body opened up. An indescribable feeling of comfort spread throughout his body. His dark skin also underwent an extreme change, it became snow-white like a beautiful jade, it was a sight to behold. Xiao Chen could clearly feel the strength of his physical body increase significantly. He rejoiced and did not hesitate to take out another white petal and place it in his mouth. Finally, Xiao Chen placed all 7 different colored petals in his mouth. This feeling was inhumane torture. Every time he sucked in a petal, the pain would double. By the time he sucked in the 7th petal, the pain was indescribable in words. Xiao Chen almost fainted from the pain, if not for his spiritual consciousness being much stronger than the average person, Xiao Chen feared that he would have really fainted, never to wake up again. Bang! 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 Xiao Chen stood up from the stone platform, the bones in his body crackling non-stop. His bones, which had undergone marrow cleansing 7 times, began to reshape. After the remodeling, Xiao Chen realized that he had grown taller. His height, which was originally close to 1.7 meters, had now grown to 1.8 meters, an increase of 1 centimeter. His face, which seemed to have been carved by a knife, became even more distinct. His originally sharp aura was restrained, like a treasured sword that had not been unsheathed. A flicker of light occasionally flashed in his eyes. His aura immediately became sharp, like a treasured sword being drawn out of its sheath, emitting a sharp, cold light. His body had already been tempered by the heavenly lightning. Now that he had undergone the marrow cleansing from the 7 leaf flowers, his body had become shockingly strong. Jumping down from the stone platform, Xiaoqin did not use any essence. He only used the strength of his body and ruthlessly smashed his palm against a huge rock beside him. Bang! Countless tiny cracks instantly appeared on the rock. The cracks spread continuously. With a shwa sound, the huge rock shattered into countless stone fragments, flying wildly in the air. Xiaoqin looked at the stone fragments falling to the ground and sighed in his heart. When Xiaoqin first came to this world, he could not awaken his martial spirit. At that time, his biggest dream was to cultivate a strong physical body. This was because in this world, there were indeed people who did not awaken their martial spirits, but relied on their physical body to become a sage. Who would have thought that today, he had already reached the small success stage of his physical body on a different path? The bright sun shone down on the ground without reservation. Occasionally, the calm surface of the Zhuang River reflected a dazzling light. Xiaoqin leaned against the rock and took out the map of the ancient remnant that caused him to be chased endlessly from his universe ring. He had looked at this map many times before. However, he did not discover anything. The location of the ancient remnant on the map should be somewhere in the inner regions of Savage Forest. Unfortunately, Xiaoqin had never been to the inner regions of Savage Forest before. He could not make out the location of the ancient remnant on the map. Only a person who was extremely familiar with the inner regions of Savage Forest would be able to understand this map. The ancient remnant of an ancient human being would definitely have valuable treasures. Holy weapons, battle armors, high-ranked spirit weapons, ancient martial techniques, secret treasures. All of these had a fatal attraction to Xiaoqin. The ancient era was 10,000 years earlier than the Tianwu dynasty. It was the most glorious period of the human race. Sages roamed the streets, and martial emperors roamed the land. They could split mountains, move rivers, and drain seas. There was even a legend that a martial god was born in that era. He could pluck the stars and the moon, and spit out stars from his mouth. Unfortunately, that glorious period was lost in the long river of time. The inheritance of the ancient human race was not left behind. There was a gap between the Tianwu dynasty and the ancient era. No one knew what happened during that period of time. The ancient humans seemed to have disappeared just like that. Most people believed that the ancient humans were exterminated by the demons of the demonic world. After all, the Tianwu dynasty from tens of thousands of years ago was destroyed by a demonic calamity. However, aside from the orthodox three holy masters, no one knew the truth. The three holy masters had never revealed any information about the ancient era. Xiaoqin was very interested in the ancient era. This was because he had a faint feeling that the blue dragon martial spirit in his body might have appeared in the ancient era. Unfortunately, he was not familiar with the inner regions of Savage Forest. This map was useless to him. I have to find someone to work with, Xiaoqin thought to himself. When this thought appeared in his mind, a figure immediately appeared in his mind. It's him, a smile appeared on Xiaoqin's face as he said indifferently. After Xiaoqin spoke, he sent his spiritual sense into the spirit blood jade. He looked at the unconscious Bai and the smile on his face slowly disappeared. A murderous intent flashed in his eyes as he muttered, "It is time to go out. I can deal with these two matters at the same time." After leaving the illusion formation, Xiaoqin headed for the outskirts of Savage Forest. Not long after, he met a group of cultivators who had entered the outskirts of Savage Forest to train. Xiaoqin's current appearance had changed a lot compared to before. His originally somewhat immature temperament had disappeared without a trace. He had become incomparably steady. When that group of cultivators saw Xiaoqin walk past them, they did not pay much attention to him until Xiaoqin had walked a distance away. One of the cultivators seemed to have thought of something and took out a portrait. "Look, does that person look like the person wanted by the Jiang clan?" that cultivator asked the people around him as he held the portrait. Someone at the side took a careful look and said, "It does not look like it." The Jiang clan's people clearly put out a wanted youth of 16 or 17 years old. However, the aura of the person who just walked over is completely unlike a youth. Another person said, "I don't think so either." That person was obviously a medial grade martial master. However, the Jiang clan said that the person in the portrait was only a superior grade martial disciple. It has only been a few days, and no one has been able to raise their cultivation by so much. However, I feel that it is very similar. I can't explain why. In any case, it just feels like it. Someone at the side gave a different opinion. The leader of this group of people was a man with a terrifying scar on his face. As he watched Xiaochen leave, he did not say anything. After a while, he suddenly opened his mouth and said in a deep voice, "It is indeed the person in the portrait." Although he changed his clothes, he did not change his shoes. Everyone quickly looked over. Indeed, the shoes of the person in the portrait were the same as those of the person they were looking for. After they found this clue, the more they looked at it, the more they were certain that it was the same person. "Boss, should we do it?" The Jiang clan promised 1,000 gold taels. 1,000 years of gold is equivalent to our annual income. That's right, he is just a medial grade martial master. Everyone here is a martial master. Boss, you are a peak martial master. There is no need to be afraid. The man with the scar smiled sinisterly and said, "Do you think I am a fool? I sent ninth brother to follow him long ago. He left marks along the way and is just waiting for us to make our move. Boss is indeed the boss. You are indeed able to see further than us." Everyone immediately flattered him. A ruthless look flashed in the eyes of the man with the scar. He smiled and scolded, "Cut the crap. Quickly follow him." The group did not go far before they saw the mark that ninth brother had left. They immediately felt joy in their hearts and increased their pace. When they thought of the Jiang clan's 1,000 gold taels, a look of greed flashed in everyone's eyes. Where is ninth brother's mark? Why can't I see it? After walking for quite a distance, the group suddenly discovered that the mark that had been guiding them had disappeared. The man with the scar saw some ashes not far away. He had a bad premonition. Where is ninth brother's man? Where did he go? Even if he was killed, we should be able to see his corpse. I see him. Xiaochen is over there, someone in the group suddenly shouted. The group looked in the direction he pointed and immediately saw Xiaochen's figure beside a big tree. When the man with the scar heard the voices of the group, he quickly put down the doubts in his heart and looked in that direction. He saw Xiaochen standing quietly beside the big tree. It was as though he had already anticipated the arrival of the group. There was no change in his expression and his black eyes were tightly shut. No one could guess what he was thinking. The man with the scar suddenly felt that something was wrong. He wanted to say something to stop his subordinates. However, their eyes were already filled with greed. They raised their sabers and charged at Xiaochen. Xiaochen suddenly opened his right eye and his aura changed. His clothes fluttered and his black hair fluttered. He was like a treasured sword being unsheathed. A cold light flashed, revealing its sharpness. There seemed to be a boundless flame burning in the depths of his eyes. Finally, it gathered into a rhombus-shaped purple flame. The purple light was connected to Xiaochen's spiritual sense. He had already silently planted a trace of origin fire seed in these people's bodies. When Xiaochen opened his right eye and the purple light formed, the origin fire seed in these people's bodies was immediately ignited. Purple flames soared up from their bodies. They did not even have time to cry out before they turned into a pile of ashes. Although the man with the scar knew that something was wrong, he had already retreated backwards. However, his left hand was still ignited. He decisively used his saber and chopped off his left hand. Seeing the ashes on the ground, he opened his mouth wide, unable to say anything. His face was filled with horror. A group of people who were alive earlier had actually turned into ashes without a sound. Is this a demon? The man with the scar finally knew what the pile of ashes he saw earlier was. However, it was too late. Xiao Chen held the lunar shadow saber and slowly walked towards him. The forest was extremely quiet. There was only the sound of Xiao Chen's footsteps and the beating heart of the man with the scar. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.